The following is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
Tonight from the Lanier National Speedway, we're with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2018 Championship Esports Association Cars eSport Tour on the iRacing eSports Network and on your home for sim racing. Happy to be with you tonight as we go racing for a 10th week on the season. It is the Throwback 276 from Brazelton, Georgia. We'll have a lot of fun throwback paint schemes on the racetrack, a little bit of an old school, and our 2003 theme of the broadcast as well. All of that and more as we work over the course of the evening, but we want to welcome you into the LSR TV booth. As always, myself, Evan Fasoko, alongside by David Schildhouse this evening, and special guest as well, Tony Stevens, with the Cars Tour joining us. But David, not only is this a fun night, the Cars Tour just had their throwback race over the weekend. Now it's our turn here on a Wednesday evening. But we do have to keep in mind that this is also race 10 of 12 on this 2018 campaign. So while we have a lot of fun tonight, points are a big factor as both the late model stocks and the super late models in competition tonight.
All the normal glitz and glamour of a Saturday night feel here at the racetrack at Lanier. The throwback paint schemes taking it back across the eras. Some paint schemes from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that I recognize. But yes, points are at a premium, and guys are still fighting for this championship, so you can't get lost in all the different colors and fonts on these race cars. It's still a hard-nosed racing here at the short track, so a lot to look at, but the points really being the big deal here tonight. Guys like Matt Hucker, who we saw last month at the Bull Ring in Las Vegas, a great fight with Christian Peterson. Christian Peterson, a last lap pass to get that win when it looked like Matt Hucker was in line to get another win. He's already got 3 on the season, so maybe he bounces back here tonight at Lanier and gets win number 4 to help his championship fight.
That win from Vegas could also be huge in the grand scheme of things, because headed into this evening, Matt Hucker's advantage over Christian Peterson in the late model stocks championship is down to just 5 points between first and second. Then it is a significant jump back to the likes of Jeremy Adams and Tommy Ryan, who are then 42, 43, and so on and so forth, points off at the top spot. So certainly a lot to be decided, but it is going to be a big evening this evening. We're also going to see the super late models, Tony. That's going to be later on this evening. We haven't seen them actually since the start of June when we went racing at Charlotte with them on the Legends Oval. They've had a couple of weeks off. There's also a $200 purse with the SLMs, but all of that will proceed, or I guess will succeed what we're seeing right here with the late model stocks due up first. Both races, 138 laps in distance, and some of these hot-looking cars that you're taking a look at on the front straightaway going to get set to get us kicked off here momentarily.
Yeah, looking forward to it both nights, or excuse me, both events. 138 laps, going to be fun. Anytime you race at Lanier, it very much is a reminder, or very similar, I should say, to Hickory from just a couple hours up the road. Very tight, 3/8 mile. The difference is this one has a lot more racing room, but still, it's all about running right around the bottom.
These drivers have had a lot of anticipation rolling up into this race. There is no more nights on the calendar that we'll only see one division here or there. It is going to be late model stocks and super lates every single week from here on to the end of the 2018 season. So the championship very much hanging in the balance between tonight's race from Lanier, will return on September the 12th from Five Flag Speedway, and it'll all conclude at South Boston in October as we crown our 2018 division champions. There's a lot of good race cars to take a look at as we get set to go green flag racing in the Throwback 276. Let's go trackside. This is your LSR TV starting grid. Pole position on this one going to go to the number 15 machine. So it'll be Jack Ritchie bringing us to the green flag this evening, and he will be accompanied by the number 31 Brad Carpenter, who rolls on the outside of the front row in second. Scott Austin starts in third position tonight. Christian Peterson looking to get a big gain in the points. He'll roll from fourth with Reed Rundell, P5.
And we mentioned him already, Matt Hucker rolling off from the 6th position, so he's got Christian Peterson there 1 row ahead. Keep an eye on that. Robbie Bunden will roll off from the 7th position. Ricky Harden coming from the outside of row number 4 in the 8th starting spot. Jacob Porter will roll off from 9th, and Devin Morgan will roll off from the 10th starting position.
I know this is going to be special for Devin, living just up the road in the Greenville area. John Leday rolls off 11th and 22. Then it's Matt Shinosky, Charlie Melvin, Jeremy Watkins, and Nicholas Bieber in the 81.
Novosad's going to join Beaver on the outside of row number 8. Behind them, Kurt Quist and Joe Burchett start 17th and 18th position, respectively, with Drew Adams in 19th and Wally Wilson in 20th. Make up row number 10. That's a look top to bottom at your LSR TV starting grid. As noted, both the feature races tonight going to be 138 laps in distance, but this evening, it's time for the late model starts to kick us all off. Pace car down and in. Green flag in the air. We're off and away. Round 10 of the Cars eSport Tour for 2018, and it is Jack Ritchie, first time at 1 and 2. He's able to clear Brad Carpenter, the 31, trying to squeeze into second. He'll do so as we complete the first trip around the 3/8 mile.
Single file as the top 2 get away here, side by side. Back behind them, Scott Austin and the number 5 fighting on the low side with the number 23 of Christian Peterson. Everything clean and green so far. These laps will click off at a very rapid pace, so these guys got to get after it while the getting's good. But as was mentioned earlier, you got to make your hay on the bottom side, and we see a great fight continuing for third here. No change up front.
It's the 5 of Austin. He's trying to work up on the inside of the racetrack, and Christian Peterson in the number 23 machine, having started up top, appears to be working at his advantage. He'll get that number 3 spot and move towards the front of the field. The driver he wants to get away from, though, is Matt Cocker in the 69. Is making moves of his own. He'll also get a good run on the 5 of Austin, and I think this time at 1 and 2 he will complete it. So Cocker also gains a spot, and those 2 drivers moving to 3rd and 4th.
Surprised to see the top lane working as good as it is right now. Usually this early in a race, it takes a while to get some rubber built up and get a little bit of grip up there. And we may see the groove eventually move up that way as the night goes on, but here early, we anticipate it to be right down on, if not below that yellow line. And, you know, the guys making the top side work, I'm not sure if they're really taxing their stuff at this point, or if they're simply able to get the car freer and able to actually carry more speed using that outside lane, as Reed Rundell just did to take over 5th.
Yeah, the 43 machine also on the outside of the 5 of Scott Austin, and he's probably thinking the same thing. I'm on the bottom of the racetrack. I should have been in a good spot, David, but he then stepped up, went to the outside of the racetrack. That didn't do much of a difference. That 46 machine of Robbie Bunden just gets on by. So I think it might more be an issue with the 5 of Austin early in this race than it is an issue with the inside line. He couldn't pass cars down low. Now he can't pass cars up high. Everybody getting around him. It's a freight train down low. The latest driver, Devin Morgan, clears, and 60 to Ricky Harden right there behind as well.
No worse feeling in racing than what Scott Austin's feeling right now. That is going from the front to the back in a hurry. Finally gets a break and duck down in line now and follow these guys around. But yeah, the common denominator is Scott. He just couldn't get it done on the bottom, maybe being a little bit too nice down there, not trying to rub fenders, and then went to the outside thinking he'd change his fortunes. Nope, didn't do much there either, and he's just continuing to lose spots. So now he'll settle in, falls all the way back to 10th, so he's got some work to do as they go side by side a few car lengths ahead of him. That's Robbie Bunden in the number 46, the City Chevrolet, looking good on the outside lane. Oh, he smacks the wall. I guess I cursed him. That's number 1 for the night, Evan.
Yeah, left side of the race car is still looking good, but that was a pretty good shot coming off of quarter number 2. Thought he might have had an opportunity to kind of fight back with Porter in the fight for P6. Did not happen. Devin Morgan also gets on to by, and that 60 to Ricky Harden. So this kind of mob mentality here, center of the pack. You find a car in front of you that has an issue, and everybody wants to jump and pounce on him, and that number 46, Machine Abundant, just the latest driver to be disadvantaged by that. Curious how hurt that race car is as he tries to hold off Scott Austin. The 5, a little bit of a chance of redemption here. He'll go forwards for the first time tonight. Snatches away P9 as the 46 continues to tumble.
Well, if he keeps at it, there's going to be the fender, the quarter panel. He got the door all in one fell swoop. Next thing you know, they'll go to the bumper cover, and we'll have a caution. Harry will come in and say, while we're still under a caution, I want you to go back out on that track and hit the pace car. Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect. Now, come on, go, go, go. Come on, we couldn't have done that without having that in the broadcast, right?
He's got 120 laps to hope that it does not descend into that level of chaos, but so far abundant fit in the part as he rides in the number 11 position, and things have kind of settled out just a little bit here. Not necessarily a huge racetrack. We talk about obviously the tightness of Lanier, but it's wide enough in the quarters that these drivers are able to get some space in between them, and I think we're pretty fortunate 18 laps now complete in this event that we haven't really seen any issues too extreme besides a couple of guys bouncing off the wall about mid-pack. Battle for the race lead, though, might not be all that far away. No changes first and second. Jack Ritchie leads. Brad Carpenter continues to trace his line. The cars just started 1-2, run 1-2 at the moment, but I think Carpenter's starting to take a couple of peaks high and low. Don't be surprised if he tries to make a move.
I've been watching Brad Carpenter's line, especially off of 2 and off of 4. He's angling that car down below the apron to get a little bit of a different line off that corner. It's helped him close the gap up to Ritchie. He hasn't been able to do much since he got there because there really just isn't that much room. There's not a lot of grip down on the apron, and he's just trying to calculate his move. Again, we're only 22 laps into this event. Still plenty of time to get a pass done. He's just sizing them up and being patient right now. So Brad Carpenter doing a great job in second, but don't look now. Look who's caught up to his rear bumper. That's going to be Matt Hucker, and then number 69 peeking to the inside, making that pass. Probably going to make it look pretty easy here as he clears them off of turn number 2 down the backstretch. New man in P2. That's your points leader.
And those two drivers, being Hucker and Peterson, haven't mixed anything up for this race. They've got their normal colors on board. They've been tuned in all season long. We've seen plenty of those cars, and they hope to continue what has been a fantastic season for them this evening. The big thing really there was for Hucker to get around Christian Peterson and battle for 4th. Therefore, he was the first driver to catch up to Carpenter. So the way it sits now, Christian Peterson is still exactly where he started. P4 hasn't gained, hasn't lost anything, but Matt Hucker leapfrogs him from 6th to 2nd, Tony, and he's looking for the race lead here shortly. Hucker looking to make up for what he feels like maybe was a race that got away at the bull ring last time out. He's looking to the outside of Ritchie, side by side, first time for the race lead.
And since the actual Cars Tour was at Hickory a few nights ago, Hucker's starting to make it look like Hickory. Roll on the top side, much like Lane Riggs did to get around Deke McCaskill, and then eventually to get around Josh Berry. Well, tonight, Hucker is trying to make the top side work at Lanier, the virtual replacement. He does so. Finally clears Jack Ritchie for the race lead. And look at that. It goes right back to the bottom. Surprisingly, it goes right back down to the inside, guys. I would have figured he'd stay up top because that's where he made all of his time at. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we see him through some of this traffic maybe make up a little bit more ground because he's figured out that top lane.
And certainly he was no hesitation on his move to the outside of the racetrack. We saw what Carpenter was there, flirting with it a little bit when he was in second, peeking a nose down low, but certainly Matt Hucker knew what he wanted. He went to the outside of the racetrack. That's how he made up a couple of those spots on his route up to that battle for the race lead. 69 looks pretty comfortable, but you can see he's able to make it work both inside and out. He goes to the yellow line. He's got some lap traffic he's going to have to deal with. Looks like Nicholas Bieber going to be the first driver to go a lap down from your race leaders. He'll go high. 69 car slides on by on the inside, and lap traffic only going to get more plentiful as this green flag run continues. Hucker gets around one of them, and the next car lines up.
This is where it really starts to get tense, especially when you're a leader of this race. You got to hope that these guys in the back of the pack are paying enough attention, looking and listening to their spotters to know that you're coming up on them at a faster rate of speed. So you get up out of the way and don't create too much of an issue for guys to get past, because remember, these guys are still racing too. They might be going a lap down, but they're battling for position. I also want to note Christian Peterson's now worked his way up into the 3rd spot, so now only one car between Peterson and Hucker, as the points implications continue to mount here. And we look at Peterson, he's getting ready to pounce all over the number 15 of Ritchie. So we may have a change for second here, and our points will be running like they are on the track as they are in the standings.
And it's hardly just these late model stocks. Seems like anything you put these guys in, fantastic to watch the show that Matt Hucker and Christian Peterson could put on a week-by-week basis. I'm not sure the 23 wants to get around the 15. We'll see what the case is going to be, Tony. We're only 5 laps away now from a competition caution that'll come out at lap number 40. If he gets around the 15, it means he's starting on the outside of the front row for the restart, whereas if he stays behind him, third, would put on the inside of row number 2. If the 23's got any preference, that might influence his decision on when he wants to make this move.
Yeah, the influx of competition cautions this year in the Cars Tour, both the eSport Tour and the actual real-life series, has certainly changed the strategy about how drivers approach different portions of the race, knowing what may or may not be happening down the road. And at least for the moment, Peterson doesn't seem to care. He looks to the outside, nothing there. But, you know, some of my school of thought, guys, would be just get around the guy. If you're starting ahead of him on the outside lane and you're still faster, you'll get by him. It's just one less car to pass. But right now, that may not be the case for Peterson, as it looks like he might get stuck behind Richie, at least for this competition yellow.
He's really gotten himself boxed in, and Devin Morgan in the 12 right there also. The 23's got to nose to the inside of the racetrack as we take lap number 40. This race is going to come down to quarters 3 and 4. As the 23 tries to make it work at the inside of the racetrack, it's not going to happen. And the 15 is able to successfully hold off. 40 laps complete, and there is your competition caution. It'll be Hucker, Richie, and Peterson, 1, 2, and 3. The 15 was able to hold them off for just enough.
A really great battle, and probably a sneak peek at what's still to come here throughout the duration of this race. And I really wanted to say even Devin Morgan himself in the number 12 was working his way up quickly, joining that threesome at the front. So, you know, don't write him off just yet either. Veritably 4 guys that have very good speed, at least in this first section. Now this competition yellow falls, and Evan, your mind sort of goes to, all right, well, I know what I got at this point. I know what I've been able to pull off and what ground I need to make up. What do I need to change for the next 40 laps before the next competition yellow?
Yeah, certainly if we are able to continue under green flag conditions, we can see up to those 2 comp yellows in this race. We wouldn't see a third one, although we could go another 40 laps. There are no competition cautions inside of the final 40 of this race, so that would keep us from seeing a possible 3, but certainly you have to look at that. I think Devin Morgan feels like he's in a pretty good position. Maybe the rise to the front from Hucker Peterson overshadowed what that 12 machine had a little bit, Tony. Obviously, that Hucker, Christian Peterson, championship 1-2, got to keep an eye on them, so maybe flying under the radar for the 12 machine could be big here for him. Up 6 spots, that makes him one of the biggest movers, only second to Joe Burchett, who, while still stuck mid-pack in P10, has come all the way up from 18th position in the 83 car.
Yeah, this is still a long race. I mean, based on the rules, we still have at least one more competition caution to go. So these guys know that. They don't want to push the issue too hard. These are good times to get some position, take your time, and knowing you get a chance to be close back in on those guys in front of you, so you don't have to push the issue too hard, and you can get those spots that can be very, very valuable as this race goes on.
Drivers looking to get themselves doubled up as this race prepares to go back into green flag racing conditions. At the moment, 17 cars total scored on the lead lap. Only Drew Adamson, Todd Novosad, and Nicholas Bieber with the drivers at the back of the pack who were passed by your race leaders and therefore run a lap down. But no cars out of this race as we get set for a restart. Hucker decides to take the outside line and so bring the field at a quarter number 4. Look for the American Ethanol green flag. It's a late start for him, but he goes back underway. And here comes the 12 at Evan Morgan. He is in a great position. He'll try to go 4th to 2nd on the outside.
A little bit of bumper cars on the inside lane. Richie didn't really go. It's kind of a jumbled start there, and that really allowed the 12 Devin Morgan to get a great launch, and now he's worked himself up into that 2nd position. If he can just clear Richie off the corner, which looks like you're making a little contact, but they keep it straight. Oh, that is tight confines right there, but he's going to keep it on the straight and narrow and out of the wall as moved Morgan up to the 2nd position now. Jacob Porter making a vie for 3rd. Great scramble back here down the back straightaway.
It's Jacob Porter in the number 3 machine up top. He had actually got into the back of Morgan a couple of times in the corner, and a lot of cars leaning on each other. The 15 can't hang on. Richie slides up in front of the 16, and somehow the whole field did not crash. We're still green.
Yeah, heads up move there by Ricky Harden. He kind of got swept up into it, but at least everybody was on the binders. And yeah, it kind of sucks when your car gets bent up this early. And whoa, problems again for Richie in turn 1. This time caution will wave, but that seemed like a long time coming, guys. And now we've got 4 or 5 cars who have received damage from that last incident he was involved in. And as quick as the caution flags go by here, I'm curious if they'll have a chance to actually get their cars repaired, at least to a satisfactory state.
The 15 got away with it once, but not a second time. Comes down the 54, peeking on the inside of the racetrack, and that is where the contact comes from. Very minor, I'd argue, more minor than the incident that they had gotten away with a lot prior that actually did not trigger a caution flag, but it is going to be our first yellow from an incident this evening, second overall on the night. And the shakeup up front is obviously going to be Jacob Porter, assuming that number 3 position. Peterson was able to avoid that one more or less, so the top 4 cars on track unaffected by that one, but certainly not what you wanted to see. And you can now see pit lane open under the yellow flag, drivers with damage taking their opportunity to try to get some of it fixed.
There's no more frustrated driver on the track right now than that of the number 15, Jack Ritchie, who was up front and now finds himself with a damaged race car in the back. The right rear looking like he just got done with 500 laps at Bristol. And, you know, seemingly not much of his own fault, just sort of shuffled and short track racing led to him getting moved out of the way. And seemingly like sharks, when blood was in the water, they all attacked. And he was on the short end of that deal, so he falls way back. He's got some damage to show for it. But that just goes to show you, Evan, how quickly the action can break out here at Lanier National Speedway. One guy gets out of shape, everybody tries to take advantage of it. And like you said, that mob mentality sets in, and you got to try and get every spot that you can.
It's certainly not many drivers to see somebody make a mistake, and unless it's a teammate, you've got a big incentive to help them out. Nobody's going to just say, you know what, I'll let you get your kind of feet back underneath you. I don't really want to pass you unless you're racing me side by side anyways. It makes it a lot more fun, certainly, but absolutely I think you need to take advantage of the opportunities that you get if they do arise. Lights go out on top of the pace car, so we'll go back into green flying conditions again. And Hucker once again the control car. However, unlike the last time, he chooses the inside of the racetrack to control. Let's see this one shakes out. It'll put the 12 and Evan Morgan to his right-hand side. It's the highest Morgan's been all night long as we look to go back green. Much better start for the inside and out. Race for the lead, down to 1 and 2. The 3 pushes high, almost. It's into Morgan, who does clear for second.
And you know, Devin Morgan, again, we've talked about, he's used to this whole close quarters racing type thing on a flat racetrack every week or every couple of weeks anyway. Pulls out the limited late model, very similar to these late model stock cars, and races it at the half-mile Greenville Pickens Speedway, which is about, let's say hour and a half or so up the road from where this racetrack used to stand. And that place, big, flat, paperclip style half mile, you've got to race right on top of the inside wall and right on top of your competition. So for Morgan, this is nothing new, but the whole Highline thing might be, but he's doing a great job making it work. Now gets the second spot, and even though, well, I thought he was clear, he looked like he might go right back down to that yellow line, but not yet. But again, that 12 car making some hay up top.
He certainly had a few opportunities, and now it does get all the way by Porter, but by leaving that lane or a half a lane open down low, it was certainly enticing Porter to stick a nose in there on a couple of occasions, but the 3's got his hands full with the 23 of Christian Peterson. I think Peterson's clipped the wall every single time off the quarter for the last handful of laps, and finally that time he refrains from showering the cars behind him in sparks as he tries to get up to P3 for the first time tonight. He's looked very good, but again, he's only been on the receiving end of a couple of passes towards the front of the field. He's trying to get around Porter and that outside line as we work into the middle portion of this race, start to see it become a more and more viable option, and those 2 cars look pretty evenly matched.
If there's any paint decals left on the right-hand side of Christian Peterson's car after this event, I'll be surprised. For as many times as he's grazed it, trying to work over Jacob Porter, I tell you, it takes great racecraft to race side by side like this, lap after lap, especially from the car on the inside. You see him push up a little bit there. That's what I'm talking about. It takes a lot of responsibility from that guy on the inside lane to hold that groove and not push up into the outside car. So now Jacob Porter's cleared himself a nice little position. Christian Peterson's not going to be very happy about that, though. And now the fight continues. We drag another car in there. That's number 83. I'm sorry, that's, I'm getting lost in my running order. That's Joe Burchett in the 83. He's stuck his nose in here. He's running well inside the top 5 now.
Yeah, first time for him. We mentioned after the first caution flag of the comp yellow at lap 40, he had gone 18th to 10th, and he continues to just storm through the field. And at 23 of Peterson, still in that vulnerable line, Tony, up on the outside of the racetrack. When we saw Porter kind of push up and get into him, I don't really think the 3 meant to do that. He kind of got up center of the corner, trying to get back to the gas, but it did move the 23 up enough for the 3 to get by him. So you're certainly in a vulnerable position if you're on the outside of the battle. So you're hoping that Burchett's maybe a little bit more courteous, and the 83 machine much more conservative that time in 3 and 4, doesn't throw it to the inside, and Peterson can breathe a sigh of relief for the moment for 4th. Doesn't mean there's a lack of a fight on the racetrack. We look right behind them, and it's on for 6th and 7th.
Yeah, good racing throughout the field here in that battle for 6th and 7th, a dandy, as is the fight for about the 3rd spot, as we just about had contact, and for that matter, well, caution is out for something on the speedway, so that'll slow us with 70 laps complete.
It is that 46 of Robbie Bundin who was turned around on the front straightaway. The very easy to identify Cole Trickle paint scheme was wrong way around. When the pace car he hit, it was the inside wall after the 15 machine pushed up a little bit, trying to sneak it over to the inside. It kind of disposed of the 46 machine, and Bundin's car continues to look worse for the wear. But the 3rd incident he's been involved in tonight, and that one didn't look like it was much of his own fault.
But wait. Now, when he was racing Indy cars out west, the tires were twice as wide and the cars weighed half as much. Now his car weighs twice as much and the tires are half as wide, and he's done burned them up. So when you burn them up, they melt and get greasy, and you slip and slide, and you're out of control. See? All right. Hey, okay, there you go.
I don't really have anything else to add to that.
No objections. I'm on board.
Yeah, that's about as good as you could have said it. I was going to say, remember that scene when he's driving down pit road and he locks him up and slams into the inside of the pit wall? It's kind of what his car's looking like now, but Tony,
I think that's the only side of the car that's not hurt, though, right now. That's the next scene coming up. They're working on it.
I'm not kicking the car.
No?
I don't want you spoiled.
We'll see if he's going to get into any more trouble over the course of the night. He's down in 16th position, so you never know. Maybe if we have an opportunity to chat with him later, he'll have some lines to hit us with, but I think he wants to kind of hit his marks here going forwards and do a little bit better. Robbie Bundin's had a rough night, and you have, I think, the most recognizable paint scheme, Tony, so when you spin out, obviously everyone's looking at you.
Well, when you do have the bright cars, they're easier to see. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I think back to Saturday night, we had cars like Lane Riggs on track with that big, bright yellow Nesquik paint scheme. Impossible to miss that car. Cody Connor's car. Throwing back to Bobby Gill with the big, bright numbers on it. Yeah, there are pros and cons to having a brightly colored paint scheme, and the cons are it's easy to see when you screw up.
Hopefully that's not going to be the case for him. Camera's going to be about as far away from that car as you can get, though, as we look up front. The battle for the race lead on a race start. Matt Hucker, musical chairs once again, flips to the outside for the race start. We go back green, and it is a great challenge to turn 1 from Devin Morgan in the number 12 car. Side by side. He's going to have to make that inside of the racetrack work, but you're pretty much dead even coming to the line. But that 69, so good on corner exit. Matt Hucker putting it to him here as we cross halfway.
Oh, look at Devin Porter putting all 4 wheels underneath that dotted yellow line right in the apron, trying to get everything he can to hang on in that inside lane. I'm telling you, you put a lot of trust and faith in that guy on the inside lane when you're Matt Hucker, right in that outside groove here at Lanier National Speedway. And what a battle this is for the lead. It rages on side by side. We got 79 laps on the board of 138. This is the best battle for the lead we have seen tonight. Not giving up, equal lanes inside, outside. Hucker doing everything he can, but give a call to Porter. That is a great ride on the inside. And
guys, don't forget, we're now to the point that there should be no more competition cautions. All the numbers break down. You're not going to have that caution inside of the window of the laps to go. So guys know now this race could go green the rest of the way, and it completely is going to change how you're racing, as we saw right there up front. Nobody's given an inch anymore.
The 69 wasn't playing around. He went to his preferred groove up top, and Devin Morgan gave him the best challenge we've seen thus far. But after 3-4 laps or so, they have cycled out to the point where it's once again single file first, second, and third. But another big thing to take away from that is the fact that the 23 of Peterson has been able to make his move into the number 3 position. He's gotten around Jacob Porter in that 3 car, and as we say, there's not going to be any more competition cautions. We have one for a spin. It is Jeremy Watkins down the back.
Taking a look at it here on the replay, it looks like Watkins in that beautiful little paint scheme, throwback scheme, that 34. I don't know if he just lost some momentum or what happened, but then the 82 just comes up out of the corner. Drew Adamson in the 82 and turns him around. So I don't know if it was just lost momentum that wasn't expected or what, but Jeremy Watkins in that throwback to Mike Bales, the 1980 Pub Shady Bowl late model sportsman car. Turned around looking the wrong way, but he'll gather back up and continue on.
It was really slow in the center of the corner. Those drivers actually made a little bit of contact the turn prior as well. Don't think it was anything malicious per se, just a couple of guys bouncing off each other. It didn't look like anybody was trying to wreck nobody, but probably the most minor incident we've seen, because Watkins goes for a nice little lazy spin. You saw in the LSR TV replay, he keeps that car straightened, and there aren't any going to be further issues. The fun thing is when we get to the later parts of these races, Tony, we talk about the fact that it could go green to the end. You're not going to have that comp yellow, and you do kind of have to set in to get everything you can off of the restart. Be prepared, though, to lock in and go to the end. Now, in practice, we tend to have more yellows when the competition caution's not on the board anymore than when it is earlier on, and late in these races, we tend to go through the motions more than once.
Yeah, you get down towards the end of this race, and again, it changes how you race. You know you don't have any more mulligans, in that you're going to have a couple of slowdowns. So if you see that hole, you're going to think twice about not going for it. You're going to make sure you put your nose in there, and that's what you're going to see as this race continues on. Fewer and fewer breaks will be cut. There'll be more take and less give as that number gets closer and closer to 138 complete.
Closer and closer to the end of this one. And again, if you're just tuned in, race 1 of 2 on the evening in the works. Super Late Model is going to be back on track after this one for the road race. That one will feature a $200 purse. You're watching the Cars eSport Tour Throwback 276 from Lanier on the iRacing eSports Network. So pace car back down it in. Once again, though, Matt Hucker mixes it up. He'll be on the inside of the racetrack this time. That gives Devin Morgan the outside. Good restart for both of them. Can the 12 pinch down and make something happen? Or can the 69 just prove once more that he's the jack of all trades? He's defended high. Can he defend low? Way low on the corner exit.
I'm wondering what made him switch up his strategy now, and I'm guessing because now since he's cleared the 12, it's just a move to demoralize the entire field. It doesn't matter what lane he starts in. Matt Hucker is going to defend and pass you or hold you off, whether you're down low, up top. Doesn't matter. He's just that much better. Nice try. See you next week. But Christian Peterson now, he's got his eyes set on the front as well, trying to take over that second spot. And Evan, this sets up a rematch for what we saw last month at the Bullring, and that is a very exciting thing to think about.
Yeah, Peterson would like to make it happen once more, and he's finally able to get around Devin Morgan. Took him a little bit of time to make that leap up into the number 2 position. Had a lot more difficult of a time getting around the traffic than what we saw out of the 69 machine, but he is there, and positions 1 and 2 in the championship are once again 1 and 2 on a racetrack respectively. Can the 23, though, really match the speed of Hucker based on what we've seen today? We got to figure out what he's got left in the tank as we close in 45 laps to go.
And going back to the restart as well, too, talking about Hucker and his lane choices, I'm thinking, and poor Myatt Snyder, I've got to give you the biggest amount of grief ever about your lane choices. And Myatt, when his time with the Cars Tour, tends to have the worst luck with lane choices. And sometimes what we as fans think is very apparent is we've got problems on the Speedway and a caution out yet again. Sometimes he would pick a different lane, and the problems, by the way, number 20 car having issues here on the back straightaway. 20 car being driven by Matt Shinosky. But back to the Myatt Snyder story, there are races I think he would agree he probably gave away by picking the high lane when he should have picked the low lane or vice versa. And I think at least Hucker, we'll imagine that he learned from young Myatt and his lane choice inoperability a few times in the past couple of seasons.
He's made it, at least so far, work tonight. You saw in the replay, very minor incident for that 20 machine of Matt Shinosky, but a 1992 Jimmy Spencer throwback design that race car just kind of ended up as a ping pong ball in the center of the pack there. Got into the car in front of him, checked up, got turned from behind. Pretty standard off of a restart, and again, relatively minor damage. So a couple of those small incidents continue to slow us down. And if Matt Hucker's gone back and forth every single time, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that the 60 Dada machine is going to decide to restart this time on the outside. Now, my luck, he'll change it up this time, and of course none of the other ones, but we'll see. My guess, 69 goes to the outside of the racetrack. That would keep with the theme of swapping it up every single time. We'll see if maybe at this point he's maybe had enough of a sample size to figure out what he wants, or if he wants to continue to play around with it as we close in on lap number 100.
You know, the new variable that Matt Hucker needs to consider in his equation of what lane he restarts in is who's going to be restarting next to him. Now it's Christian Peterson for the first time tonight, probably the biggest threat to taking this win away. And these guys, they've raced each other a long time. We've said it and we've seen it many, many times here. And this is going to be probably the best restart of the night between these two guys. So really, this has put Matt Hucker in a new position, and we see him go to the bottom of the racetrack. So he feels more comfortable down there. We've seen him use that apron as well to help him get a little bit of an advantage with Christian Peterson on the outside. That's a new caliber of talent out there, so this should be a real spicy restart, Evan.
Should certainly be. It'll be the completion of lap number 99, so we come back and we take lap number 100 from Lanier National Speedway. Green flag back in the air, really tight throughout the pack, but it is a good restart on the outside of the racetrack from challenger Christian Peterson. He's got a nose, gets up into the outside wall, and Matt Hucker looking to clear is going to have to wait. The 23 not willing to give it up.
And really can't blame him at this point. I mean, we're down to with inside 40 laps to go. So if you've got any chance to get a nose on somebody and get that position, you're going to try. And there you see Peterson nearly cut the nose off of Devin Morgan's number 12 ride, able to hold on to the second spot. But it seems like the whole rubber band theory is starting to play out. They've got spread out early, and now again, as the cautions continue to wave, everybody is getting that much more aggressive because, again, we're getting that much closer to lap 138, and that's when the checkered flag flies.
That's what obviously the end objective here is for these drivers, so you can go through a restart here or there, but nothing's guaranteed until you see the white and checkered flag fly at the end of this one. Morgan and Porter, I think, are two drivers that we can't completely forget about either in this situation. They have eventually, of course, gotten passed by your top two cars all season and sit third and fourth at the moment, but all it takes is one restart, one little bit of contact going side by side into a corner, and those two drivers are going to be right on top of them. They're not dropping back by any means. The 12 is just as close to Peterson as Peterson is the race leader, so don't count third and fourth out yet either. I think there's a little bit of a gap then when you fall back to John Lade, P5, Joe Burchett in P6, and so on and so forth, but I think it's primarily a two-horse race up front, but four of them still in the picture.
I think Devin Morgan's going to keep him honest at the very least. He's got great pace. He's matching lap times to the two in front of him, and he's running a little bit different line. And no sooner do I say that, the yellow flag will fly as we got a car. Oh, guess who? It's the City Chevrolet spun around up on the high side. Whoa, coming back down in front of the leaders. Look out. But big plume of smoke from underneath the hood. That might spell the end of the night for the City Chevrolet.
You think that's finally going to do the 46 machine in? He has been involved in just about as many kinds of accidents as you could tonight, and that 46 machine trying to go three wide into the corner. The 80 machine on the inside of the racetrack really couldn't go down much more. Kurt Quist was doing all he could to hold his breath and ride the middle, and that 46 ended up into the outside wall. Probably one of the only things he hasn't hit thus far in that City Chevrolet, and the heavy black smoke does tell me that that is finally going to be the painful end to his late model stock race.
Yeah, we said we didn't want to spoil, but I guess, I guess they're not going to be spoiled. They got to fix everything on there, and I don't want to be there in that team meeting. Something tells me team owner was going to be happy. He had sponsors in the stands, and he was hugging and holding hands, kissing them in the ear, and praying for a good showing. What did he do? He had to go looking like a monkey doing something to a football out there. Everybody done with this one, please.
The good news for the 46, I will say, is he can go and catch some of the movie as we continue to pace around the racetrack. He is certainly done. I still think, and there's a good opportunity to notice the lights are still on top of the pace car. With the super late cars as well, we are going to be having a vote on the best throwback. So he might not win the LMSC race. He might still win that. We'll have more details on that as the night goes on, but a very unceremonious conclusion to Robbie Bunden's night. He joins the likes of Brad Carpenter, Ricky Harden, who will get the DNF on the night. Wally Wilson still driving around doing laps at the infield in the 87, has not officially retired, but for what it's worth, that car still technically in this race. Scored in 18th position down on pit road. Meanwhile, the pace car is going to dive back in. 69 seems to be locked in. Third time in a row, he'll decide to restart on the inside. Christian Peterson once again going to look for the run up on the outside. Drag race that time to the start-finish line. Coming inside at 25 laps to go. And the 23 again lacks that little bit of bite down at that end of the racetrack that Matt Hucker was able to pull a little bit, but the 23 with the best exit out of 4 thus far, he is right on top of him.
That's as good a battle as we've seen yet. Christian Peterson doing everything he can to hold on, but I'm telling you, Matt Hucker uses that inside lane so masterfully. He gets those tires down underneath that dotted yellow line, leverages the apron to help the car rotate, especially on corner exit. Helps him get that throttle down and get away from Christian Peterson. And just the way that this racetrack is shaped, that tighter radius around the bottom really helps him get the distance he needs to clear him. And now they're single file up front. Devin Morgan eyeing everything ahead of him now as he sort of resets. Maybe he can mount a charge, but it's really going to take something bold, I think, if he's going to get around Christian Peterson.
He's got to find something else. He's had good restarts, nothing overly spectacular. I think if you can stay side by side with that guy, it's a pretty solid race start, but he just can't make it happen with what that race car has on the outside. So close enough to the point where you could probably try to loosen him up, try to go to the inside. The 69 is dipping those left-hand tires down below the yellow every single time. He goes down into 1 and 2, and a little bit less, but still some of that action down at that end of the racetrack you saw in quarter 4 as well. So there's not a lot of real estate on the inside for you. So if the outside's not working, you're going to have to make some space.
Yeah, you have to go where they're not. It's that simple. You can't drive, as one of our favorite race directors likes to say, you cannot drive through people. You have to drive around people. And if the bottom's not the place to be, which it really isn't when you're down there on the apron or close to it, the top side's the place you've got to make it work. And of course, that's the longer way around. It is doable, but as the tires get older, as there's less and less grip, it makes it that much more difficult to carry that speed, to get the car to rotate, and to get that run through the top, through the center of the corner and try to get a run on a guy. So right now, I think Hooker's in a really, really good spot. We're down to 27 laps to go, and time, for one thing, is, if I could do math, it would help, 17 laps to go. So if he can keep them behind him by just running his race, well, time certainly is on his side.
And the 23 notices that gap, well, it hasn't grown a ton. It's about a car length. It's a little bit lap by lap. The last time around, it was a 6/100th of a second difference in lap time in favor of Matt Hucker over Christian Peterson. This time by Hucker goes with a 14.274. It was a 2.76 for Peterson. Again, you're losing just a little bit by little bit, but you have to be going the other direction as time continues to wind down. And again, Devin Morgan still right there in third, very much a part of this conversation if anything were to happen in front of him. But Peterson has a car that's about as close as you can get to being even with Matt Hucker right now, without just having the same race car, but that little bit of a difference really starting to hurt him.
And that's all it takes at this small of a racetrack. I think the only thing that Christian Peterson has left in his bag of tricks, if he's going to try and steal a win here, is a late race restart to try and work some magic like he did at the Bullring. And that's really all that he's going to, unless there's a big slip-up, which I don't think we're going to see out of Matt Hucker. He has just been too solid, too smooth here tonight at Lanier. And he's driving away looking good as they come to 10 laps to go.
10 laps to go in this race. The next time around as Matt Hucker looks to close this one out. It's been a while since we have seen Matt and Christian do battle after a couple of weeks off, but they are your last 2 race winners. Christian getting the win, as we noted, at the Bullring. The week before that, it was Matt Hucker getting the win at Langley, and I think Peterson's concern now, Tony, more so hanging on to second than it is battling for the race lead. Devin Morgan hounding him from third.
Devin is hounding him, giving him everything he can handle. But before we get to the end of this one, I want to give a shout out to Joe Burchett. Joe running the old HC Sellers throwback scheme. He currently in position to win the MPI Steering Wheel Hard Charger Award here for the Cars eSport Tour. He's been up 11 spots thus far, and that's a pretty good performance no matter where you're at to start 18th and have a shot at cracking the top 5, already up to 7th. HC Sellers would certainly be proud.
A couple of drivers who are sporting some of those old school paint schemes. We've been seeing them throughout the field. None of them represented at the very front of the field in this one, as you'd have to look back until you find the 3 of Jacob Porter, who's running a paint scheme, throwing it back to, I believe, his grandfather's late model stock from 2002. That's the design that he's rocking in the number 4 position on the racetrack. And speaking of that number, we're going to be coming around to 4 laps to go. This next time through, Peterson can still hope on maybe a late race yellow, an opportunity to get after him in some overtime, but he's starting to see that door close tighter and tighter. Matt Hucker's gap for 1 and 2, the biggest it's been for a long time.
Race lead has swelled to 0.6 of a second now. Matt Hucker, as you said, enjoying his largest lead of the late stages of this race. Christian Peterson trying to hold on under a ton of pressure for that second position, but everything's seemingly going Hucker's way as he's looking at 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go, but he needs to get to that white flag, most importantly, to be able to hold off this 23 machine. He's probably had his best stint of this race here very late on. I'm not sure if Morgan's going to be able to really get to Peterson unless he wants that to come to fisticuffs for second and third. But for the race lead position, one more time around for Matt Hucker. Redemption from one that was taken away in the closing laps at Vegas. It's going to be a season-high 5th win in the late model stock division. Matt Hucker going to win in the throwback race at Lanier. Winner for the late model stocks.
What a great run for Hucker. He's certainly able to put on a clinic here tonight. Started in 6th. And he emphasized how important long-run speed is at any Cars eSport Tour event. Drove his way to the front on the outside. Pretty strong performance, no doubt. And of course, give a call as well to Peterson and Morgan. Morgan started 10th, climbed his way up to as high as 2nd at one point, finishing 3rd. So a lot of movers and shakers. And if this is any indication about what we can see in the super late model race in just a little bit, I'm looking forward to that one as well.
A lot of familiar faces going to be racing in that one with the added feature of a $200 purse. That comes up next in the super late model race before we clear the racetrack and get set for the second half of tonight's Throwback 276. Let's recap this LMSC contest, 10th on the season. We look top to bottom. These are your LSR TV full race results. Your race winners at number 6 to Matt Hucker. He sparked the victory lane, and we'll go trackside and chat with him just momentarily. Christian Peterson with the second place result keeps the title fight close. Headed into the final 2 weeks, Devin Morgan comes home 3rd. Jacob Porter going to muster a P4. With John Lanier rounding through your top 5. Scott Austin comes home in 6th in this one. Joe Burchett picked up a lot of spots, climbed all the way into the top 5 at one point. He eventually ends up 7th spot. Reed Rundell comes home in 8th. Matt Shadowski 9th, and Charlie Melvin rounds out your top 10.
Drew Adamson comes home in the 11th position. Jack Ritchie, after starting on pole, fades to the 12th position. Disappointment for him. Jeremy Watkins comes home 13th. Nicholas Bieber in 14th. Todd Novosad in 15th. And Wally Wilson comes home in 16th position.
Final 5 finishers include the, as you mentioned, Wally Wilson, Kurt Quist, Robbie Bunden, Brad Carpenter, and unfortunately the Butch Lindley car for Ricky Harden. Not a very good Butch Lindley-esque performance, finishing 20th. And before you go to a break and get between races, I got to give a shout out to the guy who kept it in the spirit of the throwback race and put some throwback graphics on the screen as well. If you've been around sim racing for a while, you'll know where those are from. But pretty cool job by the team to get the throwback graphics working, much like we did up at Hickory with all of our throwback theme just a few nights ago.
That'll be continuing on through the night as Throwback Evening continues. Still the entire second half of the evening to come. Before we transition over, let's go trackside. Matt Hucker, your race winner tonight in the late model stocks. It's a position the driver, the number 6 Data Machine, is very familiar with. Did we're trackside with him now, Matt. Congratulations to you, 5th on the season, but especially coming out of Vegas a couple of weeks ago, Christian's really been knocking on the door there, snatched that one away from you. Just 5 points between you guys tonight, and you're not going to gain an existential amount because he comes home second. It was once again you guys fighting, but it's got to feel good to kind of get redemption for that one that got away.
Oh, definitely. After that last race in Vegas, it was either I need to come out and win or I need to pack it in and retire. And we came out and won. I mean, I was not going to let that mistake happen again where I would give him the inside. That was for sure, because that definitely at Vegas was a heartbreaker.
Coming into this race, both of you guys had to make a little bit of work through traffic. You guys rolled off 6th. He actually started in front of you, but you were able to get up and get to the race lead much faster than he was. He had a little bit more difficulty fighting for those 3rd and 4th positions or so. So by the time he eventually got through to 2nd, did you think he'd be able to be on you like he was on those race starts? By the time he got those 15, 20 laps at the end, you guys were able to stretch a little bit of distance. But it looked like he had a fast car, but not the fastest of a car, and somehow he's always able to find a way to be right there at the end.
Yeah, Christian's an amazing driver. I mean, early on, my goal was to try to get by him. As soon as I saw that he was starting in front of us, my goal was to get in front of him as quick as possible, because I know this track, it turns into a one-groove track most of the time. So I knew I had to get in front of him, and if I could do that, I'd be able to hold him off. On the restarts, it was a little tricky, though, because where we have to go on the green flag, it's he's got that outside, and if he could pinch just right, he could have really hindered me. So I was just trying to get by him, and then those last 20 laps there, I was able to pull away. That felt pretty good. I wasn't sure if I had tire left to be able to do that, but apparently I did.
You guys have gone through it now for so many weeks in this season. Certainly this championship for the late model stocks is going to come down to the last couple of weeks with Five Flags and Sobo on the docket. Are those two racetracks that you can go out there, put the car in victory lane in, and make sure that he doesn't have a chance at closing the gap on you?
I mean, it's a toss-up any week. Either of us can win. We're always up front. I mean, he's just as good as me, and if not better. I mean, I can't wheel a super late model like he can, but we'll see what happens. I mean, Five Flags, it's not one of my favorite tracks, and neither is Sobo, but I'm just going to try to go there and finish, and if he wins, then we're going to have to take it out front.
Second race coming up. We'll let you get out of here. Before we do, though, the sponsors and the shout-outs, all that good stuff. Who makes it happen for you?
Definitely got to thank Team Vincier. I Analyze, Globalcom, Turn 3 Auto Transport. I got to thank Scott Austin Designs and Six Man Race Cars, Peterson Irrigation. I got to thank you guys for putting on this awesome broadcast every week, and Kyle Barnes for putting the show on.
The race winner tonight, the late model stocks. Matt, we always appreciate the time. Congratulations on snagging another one. Hopefully we'll chat soon.
Alrighty, thank you guys. Hopefully.
That's the driver of the number 60 Dodge Machine. He gets set to go back to work, but he gets a 5th win on the season. Continues an impressive run through 2018. We'll take an opportunity to step aside, and as we do so, we get set to go super late model racing. We'll take a look at super late model highlights from this weekend's Throwback 276 from Hickory, featuring Tony Stevens, Dr. Jerry Punch, Randy LaJoy on the call. We'll be right back in a moment. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the Cars eSport Tour on the iRacing eSports Network.
Willard is a talented flagman. Go get him, Brandon. Look at this guy. This guy's got it going.
He's had to watch somebody. And you
go. 138 laps. Preston Peltier and Cody Connor going to lead him down to the green flag. The second annual Throwback 276 is now green. Probably to nobody's surprise, Peltier jumps out to the early lead. Chandler Smith behind him, side by side. Here comes Bubba Pollard in the middle of that one. You see Lassard's nose peeking into the screen there. And
great battle for third place up the back straightaway into turn 3. Setzer on the inside. He has to jump on the brakes to keep running into the back of the 5 car, and he will lose the position.
And the thing with Brandon Setzer, he's always been very fast and he's very, very patient. He's run races here where he'll start on the pole and drop back to 7th, 8th, 10th, and then carve his way back through the field later in the night. But I don't know if that's going to be a good strategy here. There's a lot of good cars that are going to be a lot tougher to pass later in the race. Of course, Connor, and we got problems. Caution on the Speedway. Looks like problems for That is Jared Fryer who is slowed up in turn number 1. Looks like the left rear tire is flat. And
So far, no one's got anything for Peltier. We'll see if Bubba Pollard can get up there and stay there.
Bubba's making the high side work down there in 1 and 2.
Oh, he goes where they're not, that's for sure. And that's something, you know, he has a Seneca car out of Michigan. And you won't see many of them in the field, but boy, he gets it really to work good.
Control caution, turn number 3. Amber Balkan up into the outside wall, and that looks like it might have been a pretty substantial impact, guys.
It started scraping. It looked like she had a tire go down middle of the backstretch and just went straight into the corner.
Preston Peltier and Bubba Pollard leading them down to the green flag. Cody Connor and Brandon Setzer in row number 2. Once again, they'll thunder off to turn number 1. What a field of super late models here at Hickory.
Outside's working.
Bubba got that good run through turns 1 and 2 again, and now he's able to pinch Preston down. Looks like that 33 car may need the entire racetrack to get all that speed he had earlier.
Well, as long as he don't figure 8 tires are better than 4, Bubba will be happy. But, you know, those guys race each other very clean with a lot of respect, like the Bushes.
Turn 1, problems. Tyler Ankrum up on the outside wall, and another car, driver's door towards it. That is Mason Diaz, who has slid up to the outside retaining wall.
This is a great series, great night, wonderful fans, huge crowd on hand. Tony, thanks for having me. You guys do such a nice job with the coverage here, the television, the pre-race. What a nice series, and so many talented young stars. And to be able to come back and hang out with a guy that I was a fan of growing up, watching him race when I was a little boy, Randy
Come on now. Wow.
to be back with you guys, it's really nice to be here.
And yet again, Bubba Pollard and Preston Peltier lead him down to turn number 1. And Bubba Pollard, you see that on the restart, Randy? He kind of got way up the racetrack and drove straight down the racetrack to get that run.
Well, he lost the lead on the last one. He's like, okay, I don't want to do that again.
There's Gracie Trotter, and look at Jared Fryer. Remember, he was our first caution of the night with that flat tire, and he's got around, what, 4 or 5 cars so far? It's been tough training for him.
No, that's right. I mean,
unfortunately, the 6 and the 51. Whoa, watch out, turn 2. Tyler Ankrum goes around. He got stuck in an accordion effect as they were bouncing off one another.
Yes.
And
if I had to guess, you better look out, because Setzer, he knows it's time to go here.
But Chandler Smith very quietly now moving his way forward. Problems, turn number 2. Molly Helmuth has gone around. There she is, stopped on the inside of the racetrack with 78 laps to go. Led again by Preston Peltier and Bubba Pollard. We've got problems for Rafael Lazard. That isn't supposed to end like that.
No, I think he had a shifting issue.
I'm sure all the Brandon Setzer fans are overjoyed.
See that? You jinxed them.
Well, I know they have the big watch. Oh, problems nearly turn 2. Jeff Batten gets into Wayne Jefferson, somehow saves it. He's down in the grass, and we are under caution yet again with 73 laps to go.
So the caliper come off, which means it wasn't secure, and it should be.
And that's what we're talking about right there. That is a brake caliper that's supposed to be on the right rear of the car. And what are they wiping off of the car? Off the
brake fluid. They're obviously they're putting another caliper on, or they could be just pinching the line, or put a plug in the line, and go ahead and go out with 3-wheel brake.
This right now, best battle on track up front, battle for 3rd. And we did get a report from the pit lane that Rafael Lazard, it was the brake bracket that broke on that race car. That's why the caliper had issues, it fell off. What problems? Front straightaway. Tyler Church has gone around, and that'll slow us here with 81 laps complete. Up brake. Pace trucks in. And Jack says go, it looks like, as we're off and racing back into turn number 1. Bubba Pollard gets the run this time, and that car again shot out of a cannon. Peltier had problems turning, it looked like, in turn number 2. Ball back to 2nd, and look at Matt Craig, slowly but surely making his way forward in that 63 car. Fryer now up to 9th as we've got problems here in turn number 1. Jeff Batten in the concrete and the tire barrier. Daryl Gilchrist is in it. The 3 of Anthony Cataldi is involved. Off turn number 4, Bubba Pollard through the gears. Preston Peltier kind of got caught sleeping, it looked like. Pollard out to the lead. Peltier now to second. Here comes Chandler Smith on the outside. And Matt Craig, who was so good early in this race 1 year ago, he is up to position number 5. And here comes Chandler Smith now trying to get around Preston Peltier. Heard Peltier say they think they hit on something tonight. It appears it may only be good for about 100 laps. Meanwhile, Brandon Setzer has run down Bubba Pollard for the race lead. We speculated earlier if Setzer was saving his stuff, just biding his time. The answer appears to be yes, at least for the time being. Off turn 4, Setzer gets the advantage. He'll take the lead for the first time tonight at the conclusion of lap 104. And problems for Bubba Pollard. Pollard has slowed in turn number 1. Something amiss with the Harrison's Workwear 4. What is 32 laps to go, and we're back to green. Brandon Setzer gets the jump, limited bumper tag between Chandler Smith and Cody Connor. Preston Peltier going to shove Connor up the racetrack. And Tyler Williams is down there. He's chatting with the Bubba Pollard crew. Tyler, what's the scoop on the 26?
It's a battery issue, guys. The battery went dead on the 26. That's why he was under power and came to a complete stop and couldn't get it refired. A battery issue has ended Bubba Pollard's night.
Can he get to Brandon Setzer? What would it be if Brandon Setzer got moved for this one? Oh, man, the Brandon Setzer fans would not like that. Again, Smith and Setzer that last time. Nearly identical laps, down to the thousandth of a second. Off of turn number 4. Brandon Setzer sees the white flag here at the Hickory Motor Speedway. After coming back from a suspension, from a race that, well, he had some incidents here back in May. Nothing gonna get him tonight. Brandon Setzer's gonna win a statement race for the youngster here at Hickory. In the number 6 car, he'll take the win with Chandler Smith second. Cody Connor, the top running throwback car, finishes 3rd. Preston Peltier and Jared Fryer will round to the top 5.
We're back live from the Lanier National Speedway. LSR TV's coverage of Throwback Night for the Cars eSport Tour rolling on the iRacing eSports Network. Late model stocks coming and gone. Your race winner for that one, Matt Hucker, takes his 5th on the season. He's also competing as we transition into the super late model portion of the program. Happy that you're still with us. Evan Pasoko, David Childhouse, Tony Stevens upstairs with you. Cisco Scarabus downstairs. And a great race to kick off tonight. No doubt, David, we expect the same, except the big twist is not the lap count. Still 138 laps. It's not the throwback paint schemes. We've got even more of those. This is our main event of the night as we have $200 on the line as a purse.
Well, if there's one thing that you can throw into the entire racing equation that makes it an even more attractive affair, it's money. Who doesn't like money, especially race car drivers? We're greedy. We like money, so if we can go out and win and take some money and shove it in the other guy's face, that's what we're going to go and do. And these boys got 200 reasons to come out on top here tonight.
And the qualifying and practice sessions all taken care of prior to the evening, so just waited on drivers to everybody to get to their cars as we were taking a look at some of the SLM highlights from over the weekend. It's time to make some of our own. Coming up here, Tony, second race of the night. Should be a fun one. That cash has got to have a little bit of extra incentive, but as well, these super late models, a little bit sportier than the late model stocks as well, so got a little bit more kick to them.
They do. Generally, a super late model, about 300 to 400 pounds lighter, roughly 200 to 250 more horsepower, a couple of inches wider, a couple of inches lower. They're more of a purpose-built race car, so to speak, and they put on a very different kind of show, despite the fact that to the untrained eye, they do look very, very similar, and they even sound different when you're in the actual reality. So this should be a fun race as well. Some of the same players we just saw, and I expect this to be a much different contest than the one we just witnessed.
See how it plays out over the course of the night. We go trackside and take a look at your LSR TV starting grid. John Lade going to bring us to the green flag in this one. Jeremy Watkins in the 90s, sporting a 1987 Ken Schrader throwback paint scheme, starts in P2. Jake Watson starts 3rd tonight. Got William Hare rolling off at 4th, and Devin Morgan in your top 5.
Blake Neer is going to go from the 6th position. Caden Lapsevich in the 7th. Andrew Wooten coming off in the 8th starting spot. Christian Peterson looking to do one better. He's rolling off from the 9th starting position. Charlie Melvin in the 10th spot.
Great scheme for Charlie Melvin, throwing it back to Bo Slocum, hero from here in Georgia from a few years ago, lost a battle with cancer. Scott Austin starts 11th, Brad Carpenter 12th, and Jacob Porter and Zach Sprung, with Robbie Bunton doubling up. He'll start 15th.
You can see the entire running order on the left-hand side of your screen. Do it out that John Latta, your pole sitter, has requested an end of the longest line of penalties. So the 22 will start this one from the rear. It'll still be Zanania Watkins on the outside of the front row, but Jake Watson there for the 88 jumps up from third and technically bring us to the green flag on the inside of the front row. 138 laps up for grabs, and it is a chaotic restart on the outside. Terrible get-go for the Donnie in a 62, as it is all the inside line on the inside of this restart. Jake Watson, everybody, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars on the inside getting by.
Jeremy Watkins looking like he tossed the anchor out on the green flag instead of hitting the accelerator. I don't know what is wrong with that number 90 car. He's way up the racetrack, way off pace. Not the start he was looking for, as he's faded outside the top 10. But the fight is on, much like we saw in the previous race. Devin Morgan in that number 12 in second spot, trying to find a way to the lead. Jake Watson currently holds in that number 88 car.
Able to hold in that number 88 machine. Again, the 88 just strolls on up, having a throwback to one of his own paint schemes. His 2012 mini stock design is what he's sporting tonight on his super late model, and he is under attack from that 12 of Devin Morgan. Morgan, very good showing in the first race of the evening, trying to maybe get a little bit extra in this super late model race. And the big advantage here is so far not having to deal with the name Peterson or the name Hucker. They're all in the rear view mirrors, so he can challenge for the race lead as he takes a look on the 88. Still single file though, but really tightly packed in there they are up front.
Very tightly packed, and in fact, top 5 starting to break away from the rest of this field. I gotta give a call for Caden Lapsevich, and you know, here's the thing. People want to wonder about credibility of some of this stuff. Here's a guy that runs the NASCAR Pinty Series, still pulling out the iRacing sim, and for a guy like Caden Lapsevich to be involved in any sort of racing venture, he and his family did any sort of racing venture that you've got going on, it gives a lot of credibility to what's happening, and certainly says what the Championship Esports Association has done with the Cars Tour, partnering with the Premier's late model stock and super late model twin build touring series in the country. I think that says a lot for Lapsevich and company, the fact that they are involved.
And he's got a great view of the battle for the race lead now as Devin Morgan finally punches through and tries to make something happen as Lapsevich sits there in third. The 12 machine's got the ground, he's got the positioning, and he's got the race lead. Just 10 laps in, the 12 car going to go to the front of the field in this one. Devin Morgan, one of those drivers that benefited by being on the inside line for the drop of the green flag. He's plus 4 spots on his route to P1.
Well, if there's a guy in this field that had a lot of lessons to bring over to this race from the last one, it is Devin Morgan. And now he has taken those lessons and propelled himself to the lead. Now he doesn't have to deal with the likes of Hucker or Peterson, as you said, and that makes life easy for him. So it's good to be out front. That number 12 setting sail. Now, can anybody catch him? Lapsevich holding on to third. Peterson back and forth. We'll keep an eye on him as well, because Lord knows he can make his way up to the front. Not showing a ton of pace, but he is a very patient driver, so he won't let that 12 get away that easily.
He's not going to let him set sail by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly if you're David Morgan, you would love to get some of that space. Can't burn up that race car, though. We saw earlier on, even with competition caution in effect, a lot of restarts, cars coming down to the pit lane for damage repair. There is no coming down and simply just tiring up that car midway just because you're burning your stuff up early. He does have to deal with lap traffic pretty shortly here. That's the number 60 or the 81 machine. Nicholas Bieber was in the middle of the racetrack in complete chaos, second on back as a couple of cars started to commit to go to his inside, and then he dove low to get out of the way, and that one was almost ugly.
Almost being the key word. And again, it goes back to we're early in the race, and since the advent of that competition caution rule this year, a guy can back off the throttle and not be worried about the ground he's going to lose early, because he knows there's going to be at least 1 or 2 slowdowns throughout the night. So it gives a chance for a driver to do the right thing, crack the throttle, and well, at least this time it was, and now we're under caution for the first time in this one.
First caution of the night, and there's a car backed into the pit lane is where that incident is. It's the 87 of Wally Wilson, who's found himself in trouble. That race car spun out, looks like down in corner number 1 after coming by the start-finish line, spun it across, and boom, right there, that opening on the pit road wall is what really hurt him, and then to just kind of get to safety, he tucks that car inside the wall. But you want to talk about one of the places on the racetrack you do not want to spin and hit the wall? Probably right there. He got a good shot on that straight-on entrance to the pit road wall there. Got some tires.
Well, that's why they put the water barrels out there, because just when you think a race car cannot find a place to go and hit, they'll go and hit it. And it seems like an unlikely place to end up, but that's exactly where Wally Wilson does end up. Another tough go here for him. He didn't have the greatest performance in the last race. Certainly not doing any better here in the super late model as well. So one that Wally Wilson can not only throw back, but probably throw away too.
And hopefully he doesn't end up having a night like we saw earlier. Robbie Bundin was the driver who really had a rough get-go in that LMSC event. So for the sake of Wally, hopefully this is not going to be his turn in the 87 as he drops it back early on in this one. And it might change the dynamic of this race, certainly, if we don't get that long green flag stretch. In the late model stock race, Tony gave a lot of drivers mid-pack to make up a substantial amount of spots by having the first 40 laps of that race go uninterrupted. Some drivers picking up 6, 7, even 8 spots on that first stint, put them in a great position to then take advantage of some of the more restarts we saw in the second half of the race, and were able to challenge for some top finishing spots. So we'll see how this one plays out. Again, too early to say if it is going to be a race that doesn't see any of those 40-lap runs, but certainly an earlier yellow than the last time out kind of halts the progress of somebody like a Brad Carpenter or a Scott Austin who have already started to work forwards.
I'm just glad to see the virtual guys are just the same as the real life supers. Last Saturday night, we had like 13 caution flags in the super late model race, and I think we had like 4 in the entire late model stock race. So I'm glad to see the eSport Tour is true to form from the Physical World Cars Tour. It's picture perfect as far as that goes.
You start coming up. We'll see if the 12 machine at Evan Morgan can be picture perfect. Jake Watson going to be on his right-hand side. A green flag in the air, 23 laps down. Again, total distance, 138 laps in the super late models. In the 76 of Lapkovich almost spins to the inside wall. A fantastic save as he hangs on.
Gonna need a new pair of shorts for the driver of the 76. Please, someone run down to the pit box and help him out, because my goodness, that race car was just about done. I don't know how he saved that. Heck of a save. He's going to be thinking about that one for a while as the fight is on. Christian Peterson for third on the outside, trying to work over the 62 of William Hale. That is a great battle there for position. Christian Peterson trying to figure out a way to get back up to the number 12 car. He's got to work around him somehow, so if you can't pass him on the inside, head to the outside and hope for the best.
Both lanes have seemed to have been an option at points in both of the races thus far. I think a lot of it has to depend more on what kind of a race car you got, if you could make it work inside or out, more so than one lane, being more better than the rest of them, certainly. But don't hold anything against somebody like that 23 of Peterson for trying the outside. The 2 was not going to let him get back in line without a fight. And I think Andrew Wooten might be in a fantastic position here as he pulls alongside. That is the first battle on the racetrack, and it's up for 4th.
And it is a dandy, no less, as they're trying to get things sorted out here in the early going. Peterson and Wooten there in the number 2 car. Again, the top side working very well early. For that matter, William Hale working the hands very well. He had himself a handful getting into turn 1, able to reel it back in, but it may have opened the door for Wooten to take that the 3rd spot, and it does. So Wooten now moves to 3rd, William Hale back to 4th, and Lapsovich, here he comes, trying to make a recovery after that near disaster he had just a few moments ago.
Trying to certainly make up some positions. I'm impressed that the 76 still in this thing nonetheless. Immediately challenging back for positions on the inside of a Christian Peterson, no less. That fight for 5th is trailing William Hale, who ends up in that number 4 spot after everything that was said and done. And the 76-23 look pretty even at the moment. Wooten gets hard into the corner. He's going to get William Hale. He'll turn the 62 around, and there is a caution flag as Lapkovich also ends up spinning off of the corner, and the 5 cars around as well.
Just pure chaos off of the second corner there. It just seeming like a stack up, and then one guy overcorrects, and then the other guy hits the brakes to avoid him, and my goodness, That was a little bit of a mess, but not as much damage as you might expect for as many cars as were involved there. Those guys get away fairly lucky. So William Hale holding his breath, thankful for being no worse for the wear. Caden Lapsevich as well, along with the number 5 of Scott Austin. So kind of a big wreck, much ado about nothing. 76 getting into the 62, and it was on from there.
Yeah, it was, and initially, again, we just saw that 62 go around after the 76 of Lapsevich had gotten into him, but then he got tagged by the 14. The 5 tried to get around him. He got tagged by the 22, and that's how you have really 3 separate spins all happen at the same time, and didn't actually trigger the automatic caution flying to come out because they were technically below that yellow line. 3 cars at Valdo Race Control took over and manually threw that caution flag. So we slow ourselves down for a second time at the opening 35 laps of this contest, and that one's going to have pretty big implications because that was a lot of top runners involved in that one.
Yeah, a handful of top running guys got a piece of that one, but again, we are still early, 36 laps complete. If you go at it a little bit at a time, head down pit road, work on the damage piecemeal, you might be able to get the car back rolling. But problem is, you've still got, 18 cars on the lead lap, and these are not slouches by any means. It's going to take some effort to get around them. But again, the good news is still almost 100 laps to go. So if you're going to have bad luck like that, now is the time to have that happen.
Yeah, certainly get it out of the way now and try to pick up as the race goes on. As we restart, it's going to be a perfect interval in this one. 38 down and 100 laps to go. Looking like it is going to be the inside line for Devin Morgan. Jake Watson to the outside. Going to be Wooten Peterson, row 2. Near Hucker, row 3. Melvin and Linde on row 4. And Carpenter and Sprung all the way back through row number 5. Green flag back in the air. It's a great restart for the outside. Watson almost had him at the line. And then that inside of 1 and 2, just oh so good of a place to be. And Morgan gets the spot in the blink of an eye.
Like slipping into a old pair of jeans, jumping down to the inside lane, going into turn number 1. That's all Devin Morgan needed to get the lead away, and now we got a yellow once again. We got a mess. Oh my goodness, we got cars everywhere. But again, not a lot of damage, Evan. So cars sort of squirming all over the racetrack, and not a lot of damage to show for it. I see the number 5, the number 3 coming together there in the middle of the corners. That's going to be the cause for the yellow.
Yeah, that's where all of this started, and Drew Adamson in the 82. The 5 is looking to the inside. It's just kind of what happens when you're racing at a track like this, Tony. The fact that, for the 82 of Adamson, there is no car on his left-hand side when he starts to turn into the corner. But because the straights are so short here, you really never straighten yourself out. The 5's setting up for that dive into the corner the whole way, and the 82 comes down on him. So while he was, clear on the entrance, the 5 had that nose flashed out there. That's where the contact comes from, and it was that 5 of Scott Austin in the middle of the racetrack who ended up causing everybody to take those evasive maneuvers high and low. A handful of drivers get a little bit of damage, but nobody really took a big shot in that one either.
Well, there were a few sizable shots to some wheels, and that may bend some suspension on some of these virtual super late models. These cars, because they are purpose-built racing machines, some of the parts aren't built as heavily as maybe they are in some other counterparts in the racing world, and kind of goes over as well to the virtual side. In fact, Saturday night we saw some freak things break on some cars, including a brake bracket, something that never breaks on a race car, it seems like, on one of the KBM Toyotas. That put them multiple laps down, and they were fighting to climb that mountain the rest of the night. So we'll see what some of these teams are able to do and some of these drivers, because even sometimes the lightest hit on one of these cars in the virtual world can send something askew, and as long as it's not 100%, you're already fighting an uphill battle.
And that's certainly not something that you want to add onto your plate as this race continues on. These race cars aren't going to handle any better as this race progresses. They're only going to get a little bit more beat up. The tires are only going to get a little bit worse. So certainly take advantage of as the pristine conditions as you can get early on, trying to make up a bulk of those spots. Somebody like Matt Hucker, 20th. He restarts in 5th now. He's made up 15 positions in just 45 laps. He's on the inside of row number 3. Pace car to head back down and in. The green flag comes out almost immediately on the drop of the pace car, and the 12 machine spun the tires a little bit to get going. It was actually Jake Watson at the line that inside the great equalizer, but Watson on the top side really making a push.
A power move on the outside from Watson in that 88. This is the best challenge that outside lane has posed all race long to the inside lane leader. Looking real good there. This is side by side now, 2 laps in a row. Seemingly give the edge to the outside lane. Oh, he pushes up a little bit. Little contact. Christian Peterson, pardon me, coming through on the inside lane as well. His eyes got real big there as he has an opportunity to take over the second place position.
Yeah, that's that mom mentality again. You see somebody get knocked up and out of the line, and he's certainly going to stick his nose in there and take advantage of it as Christian Peterson tries to get second for the first time tonight. And you can see that 88 of Jake Watson knows those guys down low are using the apron because he's given less than a lane on the inside of the racetrack. The 23 does force his way through, and he gets into second first time tonight. Watson, therefore, falling back to third. Not really safe at the moment because behind him it's Andrew Wooten and Matt Hucker doing battle that one to fight for 4th and 5th.
And again, this group's starting to separate themselves from the rest of the field. Even while doing so, they're side by side. Again, that gives props to these guys to know just how they can make their cars work, top or bottom. And lap after lap after lap, I tell you, this is a perfect, well, almost perfect replacement for a place like Hickory in the sim, because you can run, as we've seen, 2 and sometimes 3 wide, much like you can at Hickory, top or bottom. Either lane can work if you know what you're doing. And just like that, now they're side by side for the 3rd spot off of turn number 2.
Yeah, battle's going to transition up to 3rd. If Hucker winning out in the fight with Wooten and basically just keeping that inside positioning. Watson left the door open, and that's not something you're going to get a second opportunity to close, as now the 69 establishes position. Goes pretty wide on the straightaways there, tries to delay the 88's ability to get down and into the quarter as long as he can, and I think that might have been a smart move there by Watson. Checks up, tucks in line, and he forfeits 3rd to Hucker. Not wanting to, David, continue to fight up on the outside of the racetrack and maybe have a bunch of cars, therefore, start to team up on him on the inside line. Instead, he saw the 69 was faster, let him go, and tucked right in on his bumper.
We'll put the awareness rating somewhere around 80 or so. For the driver, the number 8, Jake Watson, to make that move. That's a smart thing to do. Fall back in line, not lose any more positions. And if you think you're faster than the other guys, well, prove it. Keep them behind you, but at least be on the lower lane to be more beneficial. But bad news for the rest of the field is Matt Hucker is now up to 3rd. And seemingly now we got the beginnings of a battle for the lead as Christian Peterson trying to work over that high side. That's going to allow Matt Hucker to close in from 3rd, so we may have a 3-way battle here, a veritable menage a trois for the lead coming up soon.
And the 12 made a mistake there at the start-finish line. He had to catch that race car, turn the wheel to the right for a split second, and I thought that might have been the mistake that was going to allow Peterson to get to the outside of the racetrack on him. It was not. It certainly hurts him and brings him back a little bit, but you know Christian Peterson does not want to have to deal with, again, trying to attack Matt Hucker late in this race, Tony. So as the 69 closes from 3rd, and for the maybe limited amount of time that Peterson's going to have before that 69 is right there, he needs to get this pass done now and get a car in between him and the championship points leader.
Yeah, anytime you can get a couple of cars as a buffer, it certainly helps. Nobody wants to have a guy they're chasing in the points right in front of them, right behind them. You want to think you've got some sort of advantage because every single car and every single point at the end of the season can, in fact, matter. But again, remember, we're still closing in on the halfway point. There's a lot of racing to go, and you know, if you're really good, you can play games, maybe make the guy behind you burn his stuff up, do things to frustrate him, things like that. So there's still a lot of poker and a lot of chess waiting to be played.
Lots still to be decided in this one, and a 12 machine on the inside of the racetrack. Both of them going to easily get around that 87. Wally Wilson going to fall a second lap off of your race leaders, who just now completed lap number 64 of 138. So just like that, you get a good little run going. We're nearly halfway in this super late model main event. The championship picture as well in the SLM cars, very similar to what we discussed earlier in the late model stocks. Coming into tonight in the LMSC division, Matt Hucker, as we said, 5 points ahead of Christian Peterson. Well, coming into this SLM race, He's also 5 points ahead of second, but second in this division is Jake Watson. Watson currently runs 5th, and then 3rd in the points is Christian Peterson, only 7 off at the top spot, who runs in P2. So your top 3 in the championship right now occupying spots all inside of the top 5. Certain thing to keep an eye on as the night goes on, because as we said at the top, this is the 3rd to last race on 2018.
The similarities run deep between these two series. No change at the top of either of them, as it's Matt Hucker showing the way, but really the points differential is eerily close, as they are 3 wide up front, side by side battling, getting by the lap car, and it's just so exciting to watch. These guys are so talented. That's the reason that they're at the top of the point standings. That's the reason that they're at the front of these races. They are so talented, and they show it consistently week after week after week. And here we are, side-by-side battle. Christian Peterson going door to door, door handle to door handle, as it were, racing closer than most people park at Walmart, getting through this lap traffic.
And we all know how bad that kind of park it is, as the 12 machine slices on the inside of the 80. Could have easily gotten nervous there, checked up, but enough room was given courtesy of Tyler Allen, who now falls off of the lead lap. So we have 14 cars still lead lapping at lap number 72. Only about 15 laps away, should note, of a possible competition caution that would mark a 40-lap run of green flag contest. But a little bit more separation between Peterson and Morgan right now, and Hucker not closing maybe as quickly as I would have thought he was. The 4th place car, Andrew Wooten, is 3 seconds off of the race leaders nearly, so there's a big discrepancy between the speed in 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, and everybody else. But certainly the cars up front look very even as they run right now.
They are, and I even noticed a few laps ago, Christian Peterson thought he had a run on Morgan. Wasn't ideal, and I'm not sure if he spun the tires and was forced to back out of the throttle, or if he backed out by choice, but he did back out and allowed Morgan the bottom and fell right back in line. So very curious as to what the reasoning for that was, but I am noticing Peterson's car, he's able to get it a little bit further down, a little bit better turn, a little bit closer to the bottom, and that may allow him, in fact, here it is, to get underneath of Devin Morgan. Morgan's car just doesn't quite cut as well as it did earlier, and that's leaving the bottom open, but he's doing a good job making the top side work despite that ill handling.
He's going to have to figure out a way around the 72 as Zachary Sprung here shortly. They can see that those lapped cars getting closer and closer lap by lap. Ideally, if you can get down in front of the 23, not going to be as big of a concern. And looks like he's going to be able to do that right there, 2x2, and not ended well for the 12. And with a lot of room to spare, but he does get to the inside as they continue to lap cars. Close it into the end of the run. Another little bobble there, though. Second time, at least, that I've caught that 12 gets a little bit loose on the front stretch. He saw it there again at a turn 2, and he's had to correct that. If you make a couple of those mistakes with the 20th around the bumper, that's all somebody like a Christian Peterson needs to get to your inside. So far, so good. 6 laps away from a comp yellow.
And Christian Peterson is taking fastidious notes, as impossible as that may be to believe as he's driving a race car. He is taking mental notes. Contact there with the lap car, that's scary. Taking mental notes of where the leader is weak, and he's noticing him getting loose as we have a caution. Now that'll throw all that out the window, as we got a car spun around on the backstretch.
Well, we knew we were going to get one shortly, and this time it is not for the competition's sake. It is Wally Wilson. I said we were hoping that it wasn't going to be another Robbie Bundin situation from earlier in this one. In the 87, again, not being able to catch a break. He spins on lap number 78. Had some assistance on this one. He was really going around all on his own, and Drew Adamson, with nowhere to go, kind of finishes him off. But the 87 was all kinds of out of shape off the corner. I think it was pretty much at that point that .20 return and second time for the 87.
Yeah, tough break for Wilson, and some nights it's your night, some nights it's not, and apparently tonight is not going to be his. Certainly 5-star and ARP, they're going to be, or AR Body is going to be loving the virtual panels on that. If only those two could figure out how to sell virtual panels for these cars, they would be making a lot more than they do already. But again, it's not going to be the greatest of nights for Wally Wilson. Already 3 laps down, being shown in the 19th spot. He's just out there to soldier on and hope he can finish.
And that's the objective, just to be able to kind of fight this one out, get to the end of the race. The tough break for somebody like a Zachary Sprung is if you get that yellow just a little bit sooner, you're able to fight on the lead lap and really have the opportunity to be able to work your way forwards. When you get stuck a lap down, can't really gain spots unless somebody drops out of this race. With him being the first car lap down, you can only really work backwards, with Sprung followed by Rowland, Bundin, Adamson running right now on the racetrack a lap down all the way through 17.
That's a tough hand to be dealt right now, especially in this race when you look up and you say, gosh, we still have, 53 laps or so to go. I really had a shot maybe to make some of this. Now, that sort of turned everything against you, and they got a long road to hoe if they're going to get back onto the lead lap and maybe try and salvage a better finish. But yeah, any better finishing position is probably going to be the result of attrition. But just going back to that battle that we were seeing, it definitely looks like Devin Morgan is fighting the handling on that number 12 machine. Christian Peterson licking his chops, sizing him up and waiting, because he knows he has a very hungry driver behind him, and Matt Hucker as well, who's not going to wait around. So they better get while the getting's good.
And we're going to see if that time is going to come this time around. And X-Lights on top of the pace car do go out. 87 laps down from Lanier. Starting to wind down to the closing stages of this SLM feature. Part of the Throwback 276 with the car's eSport Tour on LSR TV and the iRacing eSports Network. Pace car off and away. David Morgan into the number 12 machine, opts to go top side on the 23 of Christian Peterson. We go back green. We'll see if the strategy plays off as the 23 works down low.
He was able to nose ahead off turn number 2, and this is something we haven't seen yet in an organic scenario. Peterson able to get even with Devin Morgan, and these two are pretty evenly matched. Morgan's going to have to drive the wheels off of it to retain the lead. Peterson's got the easier task. He's on the shorter way around, but so far a fantastic race for the top spot as they make their way off turn 4 yet again. This time Morgan able to eclipse him for the spot. If the caution were to come out, he would be scored as the leader, but again, wheel to wheel down the back straightaway.
And the 12 looks impressively calm up on the outside of the racetrack, not stressing, swinging a car wide, and a quick caution will fly, and he had the nose in front. Everybody scatters behind. It looked like it was a 76 machine of Caden Lapsevich who had gone around, and it was. He gets turned by the 62 machine. William Hale, who made an ill-advised lane change, bottom to top going into the corner, spins the 76 around, and good news for the 12 machine. Again, he was in front at the moment of yellow, so nothing changes, but Christian Peterson made him work for it that time.
Oh, he gave him all he could handle right there. That was a fierce, fierce battle. Probably the best challenge we've seen on the inside lane. Definitely the best challenge that I think Mr. Morgan has seen yet tonight, but again, looking in his rearview mirror, he's got two of the best in the business lined up behind him in Christian Peterson and Matt Hucker. So maybe he rethinks the strategy and doesn't allow the inside to Christian Peterson. The big difference I've noticed, Evan, is that the guys on the inside lane, in this example, Christian Peterson, not leveraging the apron, going beneath that dotted yellow line like we saw in the first race tonight. So maybe it's a difference in the chassis, that horsepower, or the way that these cars otherwise handle that they don't want to do that. But we saw them using that in the last race, not doing it here so far tonight in this race.
Talked about some of the differences between the late model stocks and the super lates in the context of the car's eSport Tour. One of the big ones is the fixed setups earlier versus the open setups in this latter. Of course, the other noticeable differences, the super lates weigh a little bit less, about 300 pounds less on the sim, and have a top speed of about an extra 30 miles an hour and a little bit more kick and horsepower. The SLM's making 550 plus brake horsepower, so maybe some of that in the open setups I think may be the primary factor playing into some of that. But I think if you're the 12 at Evan Morgan, you have to be pretty satisfied with the way that went as the lights go out. It was not a good restart for him. He get off and get going. There was no noticeable tire spin, but I don't think you could afford to let Christian Peterson to be right alongside you like that. And even in those circumstances, the 12 was able to get back in front when it mattered the most. So he'll have an opportunity to make things a little bit easier on himself. He still thinks the outside's the way to go. So he'll come high side at a quarter number 4. Green flag back in the air. Another good jump inside and out. Let's see what Peterson's got on the bottom.
Peterson got a really good run through turns 1 and 2 that time, and caution out again. Problems over in turns 1 and 2, and that means Devin Morgan is going to lose the top spot we'll be curious to see how, in fact, they line them up on the restart because of that. But very quick caution, and unfortunately, sometimes starting up top can bite you in that case, as it did Devin.
And that incident involved the 76 we were just talking about, the last incident with Caden Lapsovich. This time, though, he was stuck behind the Dondenata Brad Carpenter. Carpenter really not going anywhere on the entry to the corner. 76 waited, tried to split the gap. It did not work, and good news is that throwback paint scheme to Dick Trickle's 1985 ASA late model that Carpenter's sporting did not get all that hurt. He just simply split it out, kept it out of the fence. He'll keep on going, but he will drop to the tail end of the lead lap in 14th position. Say cautions breed cautions. There's no more comp yellows on the docket, and we are at 40 laps to go. I think pretty much down into the home stretch now.
Yeah, it's a cheap beer on the hood of that car in Pabst Blue Ribbon, and a cheap wreck in the sense that he didn't really hit the wall, so no damage there. So that's good news for Mr. Carpenter. But yeah, I mean, it's time to light the wick and get going here. Now we got to change up front. Christian Peterson finds himself in the lead for the first time tonight. And if you're Devin Morgan, you say, well, gosh dang it, I didn't get going really well in that restart, and I lost the lead because of the quick yellow. I wasn't expecting that. Not much you can do in that situation. Now he's just got to have to fight back hard, but now he's got to worry more about Matt Hucker, and Christian Peterson's hoping that Devin Morgan can act as a pick and allow him to get away.
Would it be a best-case scenario for Christian Peterson as that 23 machine, this time the beneficiary of when the caution flag comes out? It is going to depend on which lane that 23 machine does choose. If he decides to go to the outside, the 12's down on his inside. Nothing changes in regards to Matt Hucker, who again, Peterson and even Jake Watson, who's stalled out in P5 but would love to make up some spots. Both those cars looking to finish in front of Hucker to close that points gap headed into the final 2 weeks in this situation. So keep an eye on how important that 23 sees. Keep it a 69 behind him. He'll decide to restart on the inside line, so it's going to be Hucker on his bumper, and Devin Morgan swaps places with him, and the 12 is on the outside line. Coming to the green flag this time. Let's see how the rematch goes. This time, the 23 brings us to it with a small lead at the stripe.
And the difference in this one, he was the control car. He was able to get the jump instead of having to wait for Morgan to go, and that may make all the difference because Peterson is just about cleared that 12 car. Devin Morgan has got to use his stuff up, and I guess if you're going to use it up, now's the time. We're down to about 35 laps to go, but if you've got anything left, you want to have it up front as these guys are starting to push and shove further back. Track position is going to mean everything before this one's over with.
Everything's going to be on the line. You saw how important track position was on those last two caution flags that gave that 23 machine the lead of position. Certainly nobody's going to be holding anything back at this juncture as we work lap number 105. That 88 of Jake Watson making some late noise. He's been able to get around for P4, passing Blake Lanier. So 3 of the 4 cars up front here within 7 points of each other coming into tonight for the championship in the super late model division. The lead driver not Devin Morgan, who's on the outside, and we'll see if this freight train comes up on the inside. The 23 decided to restart down low. It worked for him, and now Hucker's trying to do the same.
I'm telling you, if you're Matt Hucker, you got to get clear of Devin Morgan as fast as you can because these laps can and will go away quickly. We're coming now to 30 laps to go here as Hucker's struggling to get by as Jake Watson pokes a nose down, almost trying to create a 3-wide situation there. So give a call to Devin Morgan, hanging tough on the outside, creating a lot of headaches for Matt Hucker, not making it easy. This is exactly what Christian Peterson wanted to see.
That's that buffer, and it's working absolutely perfectly. Devin Morgan has no say in the battle between Peterson and Hucker in the championship. All he knows is he wants P2, and that's why he's holding him up. But look at the move by Jake Watson. He also needs to pass up Matt Hucker to make up points on him in the championship battle. The 88 goes in. He doors him in the center of the corner and bullies his way through to third. There's a 69, pay him back. A little bit of a tap, and there you go. A second hit as he crosses over to the inside.
I don't think Hucker was too big of a fan of that move the 88 of Watson pulled. Not sure it was 100% intentional, but it certainly delivered a message. And now these two have got a little bit of temper going on between the two of them. And we know what that means. It could end up making both their nights a long one and a short one as far as points gained are concerned. So they got to be very careful here to temper their tempers and make sure they don't do anything crazy that could put them in a really bad spot. And they're trying awfully hard just without wrecking each other, and usually that leads to something bad down the road.
And even if Matt Hucker can win out in this fight, which it looks like is not going to be the case, as Watson almost gets down in front, and now he does clear him, as this is bad news for both of those cars. Great stuff for us to watch, but that battle started not all that far off of a restart, David. That fight, though, took them 1.5 seconds off of your race leader, Christian Peterson. So the 88 Michelle Watson, yes, he does get the spot. That's huge for himself. And the fact that Hucker gets pushed back to 4th is even better news for Peterson, because both Peterson and Watson set to make up points in the championship as we run right now.
Peterson coming out of this thing smelling like roses as it stands, as we're getting closer to 20 laps to go. A great little fight on the track there between Matt Hucker and Jake Watson, but all for naught, as it's just for 3rd and 4th, really taking them out of the bigger picture for a race win. So, you know, they kept it clean. They didn't wreck, which I was pretty much expecting them to, but 2 classy, clean drivers. They settled it. They'll figure it out later, but they got to get back to racing, as Jake Watson now proven he was a little bit quicker, a little bit better pace. In 3rd, he's got to track down Devin Morgan if he's going to have a fight for this win.
He's going to have to trace him down, and they are running short on time. Less than 20 laps to go from Lanier. The gap 1-2 is 0.4 of a second. It's twice that to go from Devin Morgan back to Jake Watson, who now, though, has a comfortable lead on Matt Hucker, and a caution flag flies. Not at all what your race leaders wanted to see. It's an incident involving Wally Wilson in the 87. 3rd one he's been in tonight, and another driver who can't seem to get away from some issues, Tyler Rowland, in the 80 also in this one.
And that happened right in front of Christian Peterson and Devin Morgan. Luckily, they were already to the bottom. That group was already up top, so it wasn't a big threat, but certainly one of those moments that likely made him think, oh, boy. Now, here's going to be the big question. We'll be restarting with about 15 laps to go. We've seen Morgan have some good luck on top. We've seen Peterson really make the bottom work. Does Peterson pull the proverbial Myatt Snyder and go to the top like we haven't seen and try to do something different? Or does he stick with what's been working and go to the bottom and try to simply take the short way around?
It was bad news either way you sum it up. Christian looked like he was home free at that juncture. Devin Morgan in 2nd position did not want this. Jake Watson did not want this. Matt Hucker absolutely did, because the point that I was about to make is they were starting to really spread apart, as David, it looked like the 69 was even slotting back into the clutches of Near and Hale. So nothing says those 5th, 6th place cars aren't going to make something happen here anyways, but anytime you give Matt Hucker a second chance at redemption, it is not an opportunity or an olive branch that you want to extend.
No, definitely not. They say keep your friends close, your enemies closer. Matt Hucker was making enemies with his tires because he was racing so hard and overheating them, pushing and beating and banging with the that great battle that we saw with Jake Watson. But now he gets a chance to cool the tires down, sort of regain some of his composure, and focus on the task at hand. He's got about 15 laps. We're going to be within less than that when we get the restart. He's going to be on the outside of the 2nd row. He's got to figure out a way to get to the front if he's going to make a bid for this win. He sees the points that he's getting up with these guys in front of him as the lights go out on the pace car, Evan. So buckle up. This thing's about to get real exciting.
This thing's going to have 13 laps left to go. As we come around to take the restart, Peterson elects the inside line. It's going to be Devin Morgan to the outside of Watson 3rd. And Matt Hucker in at P4. Pace car down and in. 125 complete. Just 13 to go. It's a great start on the inside for Peterson and a quick caution.
Massive chaos in turn number 1. Means we're going to restart it yet again and try this with less than 10 laps to go. But it's a parking lot resembling Fred G. Sanford's front yard here at the Lanier Raceplex.
Yeah, that one was not pretty at all. It started right off for the restart with the 99 and the 2 getting together and completely blocked the racetrack. Poor Robbie Bundon ends up jacked up on his side and on the pit lane entrance, turtled there and unable to get back. He'll have to take the virtual tow to the pit lane to get that car back on all 4 tires. His night is done. That had to be at minimum the entire back half of the field involved.
Just an ugly, ugly incident as Andrew Wooten gets hooked in the right rear quarter panel, headlong into the outside retaining wall. Thank goodness it's only virtual race cars, because that is not a fun ride to take in the real world, I'll tell you that. But second time into the wall for the 99 of Brad Carpenter. A whole host of cars junked as well. So yeah, that's your veritable big one here at the short track, I guess you could say.
And that was certainly a big one, and I think that certainly makes up for all of the incidents that we had seen tonight, Tony, where we commented that it looked like drivers got off okay. The damage wasn't as bad as it could have been. We've met the status quo now, so I think Tony Stewart will be happy the amount of cars that got torn up.
Well, you never want to see torn up cars by any means, especially this late in a race, because it really affects your battle for the lead and for the win. And we're getting down to last caution could end up doing it here. So if you're Devin Morgan, you got to be careful not to do anything that's going to put your race in jeopardy, but you might want to try something to get that lead.
And he might have one more opportunity, maybe two, depending on how the time in this race works. We are certainly going to be able to restart still in regulation, but we will go back green awfully close to the point that a yellow would push us to the 138 lap scheduled distance, and it would then be your one opportunity at the very end of this one in a little bit of overtime on a restart to try to make one last ditched effort. All of that depends what those lights on top of the pace car do. The driver's already doubled up. They're ready to rock and roll. Something tells me the lights will be out this time. And Christian Peterson showing us that he is very committed to sticking down on the inside of the racetrack. That's where he wants to go back green as the lights do go out. So we'll try this again and go through the motions. It'll be a 6-lap to go restart from Lanier. Peterson trying to hold off. There's no changes. 1 through 4. It's still Morgan on the outside. Watson inside of row 2 third. And Matt Hucker on the outside in fourth. Pace car back down and in. Green flag in the air. It's a good start, but not as good as last time. And the 88 trying to push his way through. 3 wide for the race lead. Here comes Jake Watson.
And around goes Matt Hucker off of turn 2. Caution's going to fly. Put a new leader out front is Jake Watson, I think. We'll see how this shorts out, but oh my gosh, what a huge twist. Where in the world did Matt Hucker go aside from tumbling down the leaderboard?
That's going to be huge in the championship standings because Matt Hucker may have gone from first to third in the points based on that incident alone. It was 3 wide for a moment for the race lead, and the 12 at Evan Morgan came back down in line, chopped the nose of the 69 off, spun him around over the nose of the 14. That's where he spun to a stop on the inside of the racetrack. Jake Watson will not be scored as your race leader. Just missed that by what I have to imagine was a fraction of a second. He'll still be scored P2. Peterson defends the race lead, but Matt Hucker's tumble to 14th is huge in the championship implications.
And I think when we go green, we may have 1 lap to go. We'll have to wait to see exactly how it shakes out, but this could be a winner-take-all scenario and do something bonsai, because ultimately, once the white flag's out, the caution doesn't come out. So if you're Devin Morgan here, do you push Christian Peterson to turn number 1? You're going to be in a great position to do so, and maybe you can get by 2 guys all at once. We're going to find out exactly, again, how it shakes out here in just a moment or two.
And all we can do is sit around and wait. The lights on top of the pace car will stay on, which means that this will go into green-white checker procedure. If they had gone out, we would have had a restart with just 1 lap to go, and it would have been a 1-lap run to the end of this race. But because we are going to come around with the lights still on top of the pace car, this officially qualifies as overtime. So it will be the green-white checker protocol, a 2-lap to go restart. We await for, I believe, 2 more times around until we go green where the pace car dives down and in, but we are going to have to settle this one in a little bit of Cars eSport Tour overtime.
Well, not much different than the last time we brought these boys to a racetrack. That was last month at the Bull Ring, and it was Matt Hucker and Christian Peterson dueling it out cleanly. No contact was made, but a last lap pass in that green-white checkered scenario. Christian Peterson came out on top. Now he finds himself in a similar position, just a different cast of characters. Maybe we'll see the bumpers used. That's what the fans are hoping for. These drivers very nervous right now. Boy, this sets up. This is the best finish you could ask for when it comes to short track racing.
And it's coming up next as the pace car gets set to dive down. The field is going to be in the hands of the 23 of Christian Peterson, looking to close this one out and make a big swing in the championship standings of the SLMs. Green flag in the air. It's a green-white checker. Just 2 laps to go from Lanier. The 23 pulls almost all the way. He will clear Watson, who looks to the back bumper. Morgan's going to give him a shot from behind in third, and it's going to allow the 23 to pull away. A lot of contact behind. The race is for the final time down the back as we look for the checkered flag. Watson to the inside. He takes a shot. It's not enough, and Peterson wins in the super late models.
Good race there, the final 2 laps, and you had a shot if you're Jake Watson. Tried to maybe get into Peterson moving, but couldn't make it happen. Further back, Morgan and others kind of got caught up into some things, and that gave you a little bit of leeway, a little bit of room. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Watson, but it did work out for Christian Peterson. Give a call as well to, I think Caden Lapsevich actually ended up in the top 5 unofficially. So great recovery for him, and a lot of comers, goers, movers, and shakers over the course of tonight's racing. Some hurt tempers, some happy feelings, and then some. And oh boy, guys, I'm not sure where you're going next with the eSport Tour, but this certainly sets up a great picture for the final couple of races of the season.
Yeah, Christian Peterson, Jake Watson have a great night, and with Matthew Hucker not being able to pick up much more than a 14th place result, I believe it is going to be Peterson may have enough bonus points to get it, but the difference between those 2 guys, first and second, was just 2 points. I don't know if it's going to be the 23 or the 88, but Matt Hucker certainly has lost the championship lead for the first time in who knows how long in the SLMs. It is going to be a heck of a finish of the season as we head to Five Flags and Sobo in the coming months to close this thing out. But David, we got some overtime, and it did not disappoint. You saw as the race leaders were coming to the checkers, there were cars on fire, smoking on the inside of the racetrack. We had gotten to the white flag, so it didn't matter what happened from that point on. And Watson certainly tried, but Peterson too good when it mattered the most.
It's such a treat to see these guys perform at such a high level, especially under the most intense pressure possible in a green-white checkered situation. And then when you're coming around, you got cars on fire, flipped over, and everybody's screaming their heads off. Jake Watson gave it a wonderful shot at trying to move Christian Peterson up the hill, just couldn't make it happen, and he did it cleanly. Got to give him credit. He didn't just throw it in there, go bowling, lick the stamp, send it, whatever you want to say. He did it clean. It was racing. Christian Peterson just too good, held on, and gets another checkered flag. So congrats to him. Can't wait to hear his thoughts on the post-race.
He's waiting down at victory lane for us momentarily. Before we step down with him, we take a look top to bottom. These are your LSR TV full race results for these super late models. $200 on the line. It certainly looked like it late as Christian Peterson ends up taking home the race win in this one on top of Jake Watson, who comes home in the number 2 position as they all came across the start-finish line. It was a close battle side by side behind them for 3rd position. Curly Melvin, I believe, maybe the driver who ended up winning out in that exchange because of the fact that wrecking across the line, Devin Morgan, I think, falls to 6th. The 76 machine of Lapsevich gets 4th. I think the 5 machine of Scott Austin squeaks out the P5, and then Morgan ends up in 6th spot. Zachary Sprung, Matt Hucker, Blake Neer, and Jacob Porter, your top 10 finishers. Again, all of that unofficial because there were a lot of cars wrecking late, and certainly race control is going to have to go back and check the tape on that one to get the official word. But let's go down trackside and talk with your race winner tonight. Christian Peterson snatches this one in the super late models. Christian, congratulations on the W. I know you guys would have liked to have been able to pull both of them off tonight, but competitive in both races, and it finally works out for you in this one. You get a nose in front, you get a caution, you're able to hold off, you have to deal with overtime. Quite an evening en route to the victory. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it feels really good to get another one of these super late model races. It's been a while. I think we haven't had one since last season, so that feels really good. I got a little lucky there with a yellow coming out. I was under Devin when he took the outside, and before that we were having really good clean racing though. So just hats off to him. He had a really I think he kind of something happened to him late, and he got shuffled back, but he was real strong all night. And then really just the 88, he kept trying to get us out of the way, but the car was really snugged up, and it wasn't really doing anything when he was pushing me. So I was just making sure I didn't let him get under me like he did that one time and just set sail.
Obviously, the importance of this race can't be understated. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had the super late models in action. We know things are tight with you and Matt in the late model stocks, but equally as tight in these SLMs because Jake's also in that conversation. 15 laps to go in this race. It's looking pretty tight in the points with Matt Hucker right there with you guys. All of a sudden, he's involved in an incident. He drops way down, and that battle for the race win almost becomes a battle of who's going to be in the catbird seat headed forward. What did you think when you saw the 69 have issues, and how do you think this plays into how you guys have to race the final two races, knowing that he's got a little bit of ground to now make up for basically the entire season to being the man out in front?
Yeah, I never want to see a teammate get spun out and have a bad week, but yeah, definitely probably helps us a little bit, and capitalizing on that with a win and having Jake right behind us. I think we fell back to third, I think, and he was a couple points ahead of us, and so hopefully with the lap sled and a couple bonus points there, maybe we'll be able to catch up, and maybe we have the points lead, but it's going to be close, and I'm sure Hucker will come on strong the last couple weeks, so. It's gonna be a fight to the finish, that's for sure.
I asked him the same question in regards to the racetracks coming up for the LMSC side of things, so I'll ask you the same question here because you guys are going to be duking it out through the end of October to know who ends up with these titles. Five Flag Speedway next time out, September the 12th. South Boston Speedway after that, October the 10th, is what is going to decide this 2018 Cars eSport Tour. Are those racetracks that you guys can execute on and walk away with some hardware with at the end of the day?
Five Flags has been pretty good. We'll have to do a bunch of laps there. It's real old surface, and I've never been real good there, so we'll have to practice. And South Boston was I think the bounty got stolen there last season, right at the last race. So we'll probably have to put in some more work there, but. Lanier and South Boston look somewhat similar, so we'll see. We should be all right.
We wish you guys the best of luck, and hopefully if it's anything like the show tonight, it should be exciting for us to the end of the year, Christian. I know that you guys are running up front all night tonight. You finally get that win here in the SLMs, first, as you mentioned, on 2018. So we'll let you jet out of here and celebrate. Before we do, though, as always, sponsors, shout-outs. Who makes the 23 go so fast?
Just everybody, Evans here, 6-man. Global Com, Peterson Irrigation, Austin Designs, just everybody who comes out has a good time. I gotta shout out my parents, my girlfriend, everybody watching on the broadcast. Yeah, just thanks. The throwback night was really fun. We didn't get a chance to put a paint scheme together, so that was kind of sucky. But hopefully, if we do something like this in the future, we'll be prepared for that.
With some drivers earlier tonight who had some of those throwback paint schemes wrecked out of the race, that I told them that, not necessarily fun in for the race win, but they might be able to win the vote that we're going to have coming up here for the best throwback. The good news for you is the thing that you win is the most important. You get the points, you get the purse. Congratulations, Christian. We appreciate the time, and we'll catch you next month.
Thanks, Evan.
Race winner tonight from the Lanier National Speedway. No surprise at all that your two race winners tonight are Matt Hucker and Christian Peterson. If you have not been with us all season long, it is going to continue to be a battle between those two, and featuring Jake Watson as well on the SLM side of things, as now 10 of 12 weeks on 2018 have drawn to a close. And always fun to have the throwback night with the Cars eSport Tour. Tony, thanks for joining us tonight. I know Cars Tour had the throwback weekend just this past weekend, so we appreciate your time as well for hanging out with us, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I know we had a lot of fun racing, and I think that end of the SLM race really capped it off.
Yeah, it was a great finish to the super late model race, of course, and like we said earlier, it's funny how the two parallel one another. The late model stocks in the real world race very similarly to the virtual late model stocks, and the virtuals on the super side do nearly the same as the real life guys. It's funny how it always works out that way. It's really, really cool. But yes, Hickory this past Saturday night was fantastic. Of course, the full replay is available on our TV site at carstour.tv. And that particular race will actually be featured, the late model stock portion anyway, on Suzuki Presents Speed Sport September 6th on MAV TV from 7 at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're a subscriber to MAV, you can pick that up on September the 6th, the 1-hour condensed version with Ralph Shaheen hosting that one and whoever else is together on the broadcast team. I know Derek was on pit road. And then just a few nights after that, it'll be the second weekend in September. Let me do my math. Hold on. That should be September the 8th, if memory serves me. We'll be at the Orange County Speedway for our penultimate race of the season, so you do not want to miss that one. Also, the first weekend in November, we'll be at South Boston Speedway, again with a twin bill format. And our late model stocks will race next on October the 25th. That is a Saturday show at the Wake County Speedway, just, not even outside of Raleigh, in Raleigh, North Carolina. So if you're anywhere near those, we would encourage you to come out and join us. If not, check them out online, www.carstour.tv. You can catch all the action live or on demand wherever in the world you happen to live in the physical Cars Response Energy Tour Series.
And the eSport Tour is going to continue. 2 races still to go. David, 5 Flags, and Sobo. And yes, we do have to wait a month until we get back on track for Twin 125s from 5 Flags Speedway. But that's going to be the next time out with the Cars eSport Tour. And if you thought the points were tight coming into tonight, they are only tighter headed into the final 2 weeks. We mentioned that, the big deal about tonight was we were fighting for a $200 purse at the SLMs. Well, the championship purse combined, especially with the late model stock tour, that purse alone is $500 for where you finish in the championship. So if you thought drivers were a little bit extra motivated tonight, you ain't seen nothing yet as we head into the final 2.
I'm going to need a full month to recover from all this racing action we were treated here to tonight at the Lanier National Speedway. It's like deja vu all over again, seeing Matt Hucker and Christian Peterson battle it out across both series, throw in Jake Watson as well in the SLM side. And I'm telling you, this is a heavyweight final that's going to go all the way down to the last race at Sobo. I can't wait. Looking forward to seeing these guys duke it out at 5 Flags next month. And, if anything that I've seen up to this point is an indication of what's to come, my goodness, set your DVRs, set your VCRs, whatever technology you have. You don't want to miss this racing. Come back and see us again in 1 month.
And until then, that'll do it for us here tonight from the Lanier National Speedway. On behalf of our entire team at Live to Race at LLC, a big thanks to Tony Stevens, everybody over at Pit Row Media for the Championship Esports Association, to Kyle Barnes and the series for making all of this possible, Chris Regal, the Cars Tour, for their support, for American Bull Supply, Sim Marketing Solutions, Jacqueline Drake, the Cars Tour Media team as well, and everybody on our team. Of course, for the broadcast team tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, David Schildhouse, Tony Stevens, and Cisco Scarluzzo. I want to thank you for tuning in. Congratulate our race winners tonight, Matt Hucker, Christian Peterson, 10 down and 2 to go, I should say, on the 12-race campaign as we step aside and we return on Wednesday, September the 12th from 5 Flags Speedway. That race and every race at the Cars eSport Tour can be found right here on LSR TV and the iRacing eSports Network. Thanks for joining us for Throwback Night. Good night from Lanier, and we'll catch you next time out from Pensacola.